Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Friday night here on Heavy Metallurgy. I am one of your hosts, Alan, and I'm here as always with my intrepid co-host, Marty. Marty, how are you this fine summer Friday evening?
Doing all right. Belly full of fast food, a couple White Claws, good conversation, good friends. We're going to be a good night.
Sounds like it.
How about you? What have you been doing?
Just a busy week with this, that, and the other. It's hot here in the South, but it's hot pretty much everywhere this week. So hope everyone out there is finding a cool way to beat the heat. About all we can do until things cool down just a tad. But yeah, it's been a good week overall. No big issues. Just working through the day-to-day stuff. Hope everybody else out there is having a good week as well. And we've got a very fun topic tonight with a new guest, someone we've wanted to have on for a long time, and the schedules and stars have finally aligned. So we'll bring him out in just a minute or two. But before we do that, it's Friday, and in the heavy metal universe, that means it is new album release day. So, Marty, what are some titles that have come out today, Friday, June 21st, that people might want to investigate and possibly pick up if they're out and about at their local record store this weekend?
Well, a real quick list here. We got Alceste, Les Chants de l'Aurora. Nailed it. Nuclear Blast Records.
Those French lessons are paying off.
They're paying off. Yep. Pandora, Cavalera, Schizophrenia, the remake of Schizophrenia on Nuclear Blast Records. Construct of Lethe, Kindness Dealt in Venom on Transcending Obscurity Records. Goratron on Sentience Revoked on Refining Darkness Records. Hyperdontia, Harvest of Malevolence on Dark Descent Records. Inherit the Void, Scars of Yesteryears on Avant-Garde Music. I don't know how to say this, but I've checked out the album, a bit of it. It's awesome. Kvaen? Kvaen?
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that one either.
The Formless Fires, that came out on Metal Blade Records today. We've got Marillion, An Hour Before It's Dark, live in Port Zelanda, 2023 on Ear Music. Portrait, The Host on Metal Blade Records. Sarka, Endo Fate? Feet? I don't know. Soul Cellar Records, that's Nocturnal Culto singing on that.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And lastly, Within Temptation, Worlds Collide live album, self-released. So did you have any to add to that list, Alan? Or
nope, you've got everything I had. You have already mentioned and then some. So yeah, good
awesome
crop of stuff out for this weekend. So Nick, appreciate it.
Nick Onick, thank you so much, man. You rule. Appreciate
Thanks.
that.
Glad to have you in the chat tonight, as well as everyone else who is filing in. Lots of regulars we've been seeing. A lot of new folks we've been seeing hop into the chat in recent weeks, too. And we're glad folks are kind of diving in, participating. It's always really fun to see what kind of comments, feedback, and ideas people have. It's a big part of the fun of doing these live is that, yeah, we can kind of interact with you in real time that way. So
Me and Ryan are bringing Sexy back tonight. So, hey, that's good.
Simon brought Sexy back Wednesday by Australian time, I guess. Some jokes never get old, and we'll just keep doing that. But
just keep it going. Yep.
Simon will be returning to Heavy Metallurgy in a few more weeks. We've got him on the calendar, as well as some other great guests coming up over the next month. But tonight, we've got a very special new guest. Let's bring him on out. He has waited more than long enough. Marty, do the honors, please.
Yep. Welcome, Steve, from S&T Young YouTube channel. Welcome, Steve. Finally, we aligned the planets and the stars and the cosmos, and everything is great. Let me turn this banner off.
We also asked him very, very nicely, and he said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
Doing good. Good to see you. So, for those of the people in the chat that are watching the show might not be familiar with your channel, tell us a little bit about it. How long you've been doing it?
I've been doing my channel for about 2 years, I think. About 2 years. And I mainly show thrash metal and death metal and speed metal. That's my main things right there. And I put a couple of bass solos on every once in a while. But that's about it.
Fantastic bass player, everybody. Go check out he's really, really, really good. He isn't just a guy farting around. He's He's past his Jedi training,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, he's not just noodling around. He does some really cool stuff on his channel when he feels like it. And he's always showing lots of really kick-ass metal albums as well.
Yep.
We're all around the same age too, so you're probably going to see a lot of similar things over on his channel. We'll probably be showing a lot of similar things tonight. But what was the inspiration to get your channel up and running?
My inspiration was actually Ben and you, actually. I was watching, I was looking for I was trying to get into black metal. I wasn't really into it. I think I typed in something like favorite black metal albums, and I had no idea there was a VC. And the first thing that popped up was Ben Brain Smasher, the 13 Stone Cold Classics. And of course, when I clicked that, Marty Worm was the next one in the suggestions. So I watched that. And that's kind of how I got into watching VC videos. And then more and more got into it. And I was like, well, man, I could probably do my own videos. And here I am, pretty much. Oh, that's all in a nutshell.
First time turning on that phone camera, what was going through your head?
Oh, shoot. I was like, well, I'm talking to my damn self.
I felt so stupid. What the hell am I? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, well,
dumb.
The actual first video I recorded, I just had the freaking records lined up here, and I was just going through it real quick, not even talking, just had music playing in the background. And then finally, I think the very first video I shot was Death Metal Hidden Gems, and it did pretty good. And then after that, it just kind of built from there, I'd say. But yeah, the first time I turned on that camera, I thought I was talking to myself. I thought this was pretty damn stupid from watching it, because I watched the video and I sat on the video for 2 weeks and like, do I really want to post this? And I end up uploading it, so it's there.
Always that. No one's going to watch this. Why am I doing this? No one's going to watch this. And the people that do are going to think I'm an idiot. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that video actually, I think I was surprised. I got like 400 or 500 views in 2 weeks, I think. And I think it's sitting around 1,200, something like that.
Nice.
But yeah, it kind of surprised me. And then the videos after that didn't do very well for a while. But yeah, that's where I am with that.
Rad Music Chat, welcome. Thanks for that. I'm glad we're part of your weekend. That's awesome. Cheers.
That's cool to hear. Yeah, and Steve, your videos, I mean, they usually get very good response. I noticed, I often don't catch things the day they come out. So, but by a few days later, I was like, yeah, people are really checking your things out. I think you've got a good following. Folks definitely like what you do and tune in very quickly whenever you post something.
Yeah. All right. I'm humbled by it. It kind of surprises me. I never thought in a million years I'd be doing this in the first place, but it's really cool when it happens. And I put a video up, and I think I put more videos up lately than I have before that. I think I'm trying to put one out every 2 days, I think, right now. And
oh, wow. Yep. That's a fast pace.
Yeah. I got my next video right here, actually. And I was looking at it, I was like, oh, cool. So if you guys show some of the same stuff, I could pull out some of that stuff, because it's got some good killer vocals on it too.
Go for it, Wilson. Yeah, it's weird, but it's a cool way to share. I mean, older you get, you amass a big collection. It's fun to share your collection. It used to be, people come over for the first time, you're like, wow, and going through the collection with them that way. But actually showing it and talking about this stuff, it's fun. It's fun to do, and get a little bit more mileage out of it than just sitting here collecting dust on a shelf. But
I agree.
Go ahead. Nope. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I agree, because nowadays there's not hardly anybody that listens to this stuff that I know of, except a guy across town, and he's got one of the biggest, best collections I've ever seen. I've been trying to get him to make videos. He's from Jordan. I think he said he was born in Kuwait, but his parents are Jordanese. But his collection, if he ever made a video, it'd blow your mind. It's insane.
Wow.
But I guess we both envy each other's collection, but we're the only two that could talk to each other around in this area because everybody else listens to country. So,
Yeah, yeah.
rap.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of us are in those kind of situations where it's like, yeah, there's one or two people I bump into from time to time, but everybody's very spread out, especially in the United States. You have a town, you get your guaranteed residential metalhead, and everybody else listens to other stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And the VC doing this, get to connect with everybody like Scott at No Solution and George G and you guys and Ben and everybody. So it's kind of a awesome community. It is an awesome community, but hundreds of miles apart. So, but it doesn't feel that way. But anyway, that's where I'm at with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Steve, what we usually do when we have a guest on for the first time or any time, we usually extend them the chance to offer up a topic that we can chew on. I mean, we all plan stuff every week. It's nice someone coming in, pull out a topic that they might be passionate about. And Steve actually picked, as soon as you said this topic, I'm like, why haven't we thought of this? I mean, seriously, this is it's a great topic. It's easy and a lot of room for discussion, but yeah. Favorite singers. What is obviously something you haven't covered on your channel before. I don't think we have either.
No, we definitely haven't.
Nope.
What were your thoughts behind this one? And might as well get started once you get done sizing up what makes a singer a favorite of yours before you start showing. We'll do one and go around the circle there.
Well, a lot of times it's the lyrics is first key. Also the personality and the vocals. I'm mainly, of course I listen to death metal, but I like the speed metal vocals, the high vibrato, and clean singing as well. And majority of my collection on my show it's mainly power metal and speed metal and that kind of stuff like that. But that's where I love vocals. I always have. I'm not a very good singer. I used to be a singer in a band, but I can't sing like these guys. But I always wanted to, and that's where I'm at. That's just how it goes. And it really got kicked off with bands like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and those type bands.
Yeah. Well, awesome. What's your first pick?
My first pick, I just picked one album because it's the very first album I ever heard with this guy's vocals is Devin Townsend off of Via, Section of Religion.
I didn't even think of pick him. Yeah.
Yeah, 1993. That's the first time I ever heard his. That's weird. My phone is kind of weird, but his vocals just blew me a freaking way the first time I ever heard it. I was like, "Holy crap! Who is this guy?" And then to find out he's like 17 or 18 when he did vocals on this, just amazing. And then the strapping out young lad stuff is awesome, and his Devin Townsend project. But I think his best vocal performance was on this album right here.
I'm a big City fan. It's just so unbridled and crazy. Yet he can sing beautifully.
Yeah,
great choice. I didn't even think about pulling Devin. I love his vocals. Great singer.
Yeah, he blows me away every time. I bought Empath, and then I was listening to Empath, and that opera song "Why" came on. Like, you're kidding me? This guy's a musical genius. That's how I've always felt about Devin. So it's one of my favorite vocalists of all time.
Yeah. Awesome. Good start.
Mm-hmm.
And Alan, what constitutes a good singer for you?
Well, definitely, someone that can, add that extra component, to the music, where they can fit into the music, but kind of help take it to another level. If they've got, some personality or, kind of a unique voice, that always helps a lot. And, I do tend, especially on this list tonight, to go for folks that maybe, are in more classic, traditional metal bands, so that they're not necessarily trained singers, but most people would agree that, they know how to sing. While I like, more extreme forms of metal, I didn't end up picking a lot of extreme metal vocalists for this list. I kind of stuck more to your traditional metal, classic metal, some power metal stuff like that. So yeah, someone that's got a very strong voice, good personality, has a decent range, can add some emotion to the songs, whether it's a faster headbanging song or something that's a little more powerful. Those are kind of the things that I'm tending to look for.
Right on. What was your first pick?
Wow, my first pick should be no surprise. I've said many times before, this is my favorite metal vocalist of all time. It's this young fellow right here, Michael Kiske from Halloween. The pumpkin was probably a giveaway. But he's always been my favorite metal singer since the first time I heard him back in high school in the very early 90s. Great voice, really incredible range, crystal clear, always pitch perfect. Sounds great singing, faster, very powerful, double bass driven power metal anthems. Sounds very good doing the slower, more emotional power metal ballads. Just works across the board. Wait, what's Simon up to here?
Man, Marty just lost his first, second, third, and 15th pick. And then Devin says, wait, you guys like Halloween?
Simon, I traded up in the draft to get this one, so Marty's getting several picks in the later rounds ahead of me.
Oh, I'm showing them later. Don't worry.
Yep. But Kiske is just kind of the full package for that. One thing too that kind of cements him at the top of the list, even on those albums that I don't like, Chameleon being the prime example. I don't like that album. I think most of the songs are not very good. But it still at least has Michael Kiske singing on it, and he still does a good performance, even though I don't think the material itself is particularly good. It's like, yeah, the song sucks, but when he sings it, there's at least something positive about it all the time. He still sounds, absolutely fierce to this day. His voice has aged incredibly well, through the different projects he's done outside of Halloween and now back with Halloween. So yeah, that's my man. No one in heavy metal tops him. There's someone who comes very close, but I got to wait for my second turn for that. So time to pass it over to Marty and let him have his first shot at this. I will not pick any more Halloween vocalists, so the rest of that field is wide open for Marty.
All right. Well, for me, vocalists, I started off with Kiss. That's my jump-in point for music appreciation. Although I did grow up with ABBA. I grew up with Mac Davis. I grew up with country. I mean, that's where I came from. But Anne Murray, I mean, all the country crooners and all that stuff. My dad was very much into that stuff. But Kiss set me on, and I should have picked Kiss because I'm a big Gene Simmons vocal. I always liked his vocals, and he can still sing. Like Paul blew out his voice, which I get. He was singing in that high screwed up register for so long it fried his voice. But Gene sounds great. But anyway, what I look for in vocalists, people that actually sing, singers like, Kiske or some of the people I'm going to show tonight, they have a characteristic that is unique. Typically it's a bit bluesy or raspy. That's typically the style I like, although Kiske isn't necessarily that type of a singer. But I also picked some death metal and black metal singers too. I know that's more vocalizations than singing, but I think the ones I picked tonight have a characteristic all their own and a power. And that's just it. Power, charisma, not just following the vocal, not just following the riffs verbatim with the lyrics. That bugs me too on occasion. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking for in sizing it up. And I do not have these organized, so it's going to be a bit chaotic. I got some metal, I got some non-metal, but we're going to start off with this one right here. And this is a Halloween derivative, the debut Master Plan album. This is Roland Graphow and Uli Kusch from X-Halloween. And the singer on this album is Jorn Landa. The first time I heard this album, it blew me away. This guy has got a Dio quality to his voice. He's very raspy, very bluesy, very soulful. This guy makes you feel every line, man. He's just a great emotive singer. And if you've never heard this album before and you like German power metal, I would strongly recommend it because it is really well done.
Hey.
Roland's an excellent songwriter, but Jorn really makes this record for me. He's just a great bluesy, emotive singer. And the choruses, the lead ups to the choruses, it isn't just a good chorus on here. All the songs flow, have a lot of feeling in it, all because of the singer. So, yep, I've got the first 2 albums by this band, and they're both excellent because of Jorn Landa. So, check out Master Plan. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, very cool band. And Landa is good. He's always reportedly had quite the ego, which is why he maybe shows up in different bands for short periods of time. But the dude can sing.
Yeah, he can sing.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard that one.
Oh, check it out.
Yeah.
Check it out. If it's up your alley, definitely give it a spin. It's great vocals. Great.
Yeah. They had some momentum going around like the late 2000s, and then they went through like 3 vocalists and 3 albums, and it just kind of torpedoed the project a bit, sadly.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
Usually the vocalist is the face of the band, so that's what people want to hear. It's the first album they're on, and then when they change vocalists, it's hard to get into it. Like Van Halen, for example. For me, I cannot get into Sammy Hagar, Van Halen.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point, Steve. Even if they get a good vocalist, and even if they get somebody who's already established and that people like, similar to Hagar, that doesn't mean it's going to go over well.
And really, pound for pound, Van Halen leveled up with Sammy Hagar. I mean, he's actually a great singer, where Dave is a better performer.
Right.
Can't argue that. Yep.
All right, you are back, Steve. What's your second pick?
Well, my second pick is, man, I grabbed 3 projects by this guy, and he just blows me away that he could do the clean vocals. He could do black metal vocals, which is this guy's name is Jake Rogers, and this is his first project, Galabrade. And this album blew me away when I first heard it, and I wanted to know more about this guy, so check that out. Then actually the first album I bought was it's a picture disc. I don't know if you can see it, but Visigoth. What was that called? Conquerors. So his vocals on this just blow me away. Trader's Gate, all that good stuff. But just an amazing speed metal, power metal album. And then he goes and does vocals on Caledon Brood, some more black metal vocals. So a very talented fellow. So Jake Rogers from those 3 bands.
Yeah, great pick.
Did I go too fast?
No, good.
But
no, that's fine. No, that's
this album right here. Yeah, Steel and Silver, Warriors, Queen. It's fantastic fucking album. Oh, excuse my language.
Oh, you're fine.
No,
we're past the 2-minute mark. You can swear. It's usually in the 2-minute mark is where they bump you. So we're good.
Yeah. No, yeah, those are good projects. I like Visigoth a lot. I
just love the vocals
a few months ago, and just was like, oh wow, this is really
amazing
good too.
vocals.
All right, Alan, your second pick.
All right, I said, whenever I say nobody's on the same level as Michael Kiske, there's always one smart aleck who has to say, not even this guy, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you that one. That if Kiske is going to share the podium with someone, it is going to be this guy. And the guy we're talking about is Jeff Tate from Queensryche. Tate obviously is a trained singer from an early age, and I mean it shows. He's always had a stunning voice, perfect for this style of metal where he can sing again very anthemic stuff. Incredibly good, kind of the sadder, more somber material. He can get the emotion. He's got the range, and he just he always comes across perfect for that band where it's U.S. power metal from the '80s, but it was always kind of elevated. Queensryche was a little more cerebral. Kind of walked their own path as well. They didn't just stick to a lot of the dungeon fantasy stuff. They did that on their first EP. And he sounds great doing that kind of stuff on those early tracks. But as they started doing things that, were a little more intellectual, Tate's voice just always fit that so well. He can sustain those notes as long as they need him to. he can deliver with power when needed to. And he helped them forge some of the real defining albums from American metal right from the start. Really, all three full lengths that he's on in the 80s are classics. Operation Mindcrime is just a masterclass in vocal performance. I know some people find that album a little tedious with the long involved story and everything, but just you can listen to it just for his singing alone. If you get tired of the plot or whatever, that's no big deal. That's in the background, Tate's in the foreground, and his presence is great. I recently watched the Mindcrime live DVD and a second performance from that tour too. And yeah, he really was meant to be on those big stages in that kind of stadium arena, and he sounds fantastic. His voice isn't lost in that kind of huge venue whatsoever. And like Kiska, even on some of the material that I'm not as keen on, Tate always still manages to sound really good. Some of the later 90s albums, Promised Land, Here in the New Frontier, I've never gotten into those albums a whole bunch, but they still at least have Jeff Tate singing on them. And of course, Tate, proved he could also deliver on things that would become top 40 hits, in the Empire era with Silent Lucidity and all. Yes, we all heard that song way too many times back in the day, but let's face it, his singing is gorgeous on that song. It's a huge part of why that song became such a monster hit. He delivers it so beautifully. And there's not a lot of metal bands that ever had somebody who could come close to singing on that level. Queensryche was very, very fortunate to have him on board for all their classic albums. So yeah, if there was someone I was going to put up there next to Michael Kiska in terms of just all out talent and quality, it would be Jeff Tate. So that will be my number 2. After this, I don't have them in any real particular order. It'll be a little more hodgepodge, but yeah, those two guys for me are a cut above.
Steve, I don't know if you noticed, but your phone's starting to get super glitchy. It's catching and freezing on you. I don't know if you saw that. You might want to try to get your laptop in with the program if you can.
See.
All right.
Steve froze for the moment. Okay. Oh, we're getting back online there.
Yep. Okay. Next for me, I could not pick this guy. And I just picked Rainbow because it was the first one I thought of, but Ronnie James Dio for me. Right here is the characteristic of usually my sweet spot. You got the bluesy singer, power, and the day he passed away, he probably could have went up and sang a show. He just never really abused his voice much, and even at the end, he could still sing. Ozzy has struggled, but Dio was glorious right up till the very end, and I love Rainbow, these two albums in particular, especially Rising. Oh my God, one of my favorite albums. I love this album so much, especially the vamping he does at the end of Stargazer as the song's fading out. God,
yep,
he was such a king. He was a king of that stuff, and of course the first 2 Sabbath records he did, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, are undeniable classics. And even his solo stuff. I mean, and even Elf. I really like the Elf stuff too, even though that's a lot more boogie woogie. It's still Ronnie James Dio singing. He's got such a identifiable voice. He's got so much power and heart in his singing. And wow, what a talent. What an amazing talent. And I'm sure you guys probably had him in your list as well, but had to get this out. Can't go wrong with any Dio. All right. Steve.
Yep, yeah, he sounded really good all the way through. Even in his later years, he still sounded quite good. He maybe lost a step like most guys will, but sounded very good live too. I did get to see him play live one time back in the 90s.
Never saw him. Yep.
It might have been, I don't know. It wasn't Lock Up the Wolves tour. It was probably the one after that. Was that Angry Machines maybe? And yeah, even like in a very small, club bar kind of setting, he still delivered that same kind of very majestic, regal air. Even playing a cowboy bar in West Texas, it still worked. He still delivered that kind of magic.
Yeah. All right, Steve.
Yeah. Are you guys hearing me all right? My dang phone was starting to glitch out. So I had to turn
It's
off
getting
that.
glitchy. Yeah, it's getting
Oh.
glitchy.
Yeah, can hear you good, but yeah, we noticed the
That's why.
visual was getting a little glitchy.
You're good for the moment.
Yeah, I had to turn a couple of things. Yeah, I had to turn a couple of things off. And that kind of bugs me. So I won't be able to see the chat, but that's all right. Sorry about that.
All right.
Well, my next pick is it's a really good one. Sorry about the phone. I didn't think I was going to do that. Didn't do that with the Scott deal. It looks like I'm glitching again.
You're there.
I'm there. Okay.
Yep.
You're good for
Sorry.
now. Yep.
So a little bit embarrassing because it's just where I'm at. I'm out in the middle of the stick, so I was hoping that it wouldn't do this. But my next favorite singer is of White Wizard, which another band that he sings with is Winterfall, and he's also the current vocalist of Sanctuary. Fantastic vocalist right here. Yeah, very, very good stuff right here. Just a great album. I love his dual harmony vocals and everything he does. It just works well with the riffs and the drums and all that good stuff with the music. Just an awesome album. Awesome vocalist too, Michael Joseph.
Awesome. I've not heard it.
I didn't realize he was with Sanctuary also. Yeah, I've heard the White Wizard stuff, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
But no, good one.
All right. Alan.
All right, time to step on Marty's toes just a bit, I'm afraid.
That's fine.
Because we both love this vocalist. We're both going to have stuff to say about him. I'll keep it short so that Marty's got some time to add some stuff. Another one that people often mention is like, should this be up there on the Tate level and the Kiska level? And it's really close. I have him like maybe just not even a half step lower. John Arch, mostly known for his work on the early Fates Warning albums. But his more recent collaboration with Jim Matheos, just the Arch Matheos project, is another guy whose voice has just proved it doesn't age. He still sounds incredibly good. And Arch has a very unique way of singing. He crams a lot of verbal information into a very limited amount of space. There's tons of words. There are very tricky rhyme schemes and patterns within his lyrics. He's a very gifted lyricist, and he finds these very unique patterns to deliver all these amazing lyrics to. So this is the second Arch Matheos album, which is just really beautiful stuff. Like it quite a bit. He's always done well. He's one of those vocalists that almost better than anyone else is great at conveying very strong emotions. He is one of these vocalists, and I'm not being hyperbolic. He can move you to tears with some of his more gorgeous tracks. Even back in the Fates Warning days, this was a thing. His tenure with Fates was, kind of short for reasons, which was always a shame. And, he disappeared from the music scene for a long time. But
tried out for Dream Theater.
Yeah. There was a chance he could have come back there. But even with that tryout, I don't know if it was a given that he would have taken the job, even if they had offered it to him, based on things he said in interviews that, he felt like he wanted to give it a try, but he was really conflicted about whether he wanted to get back in the game at that point or not. But regardless, he is back, doing some things now, and I'm really glad he is. The quality of the Arch Matheos stuff shows that he had a lot more to contribute, and we're all very fortunate that he decided to do so. An amazing and very, very unique vocalist, checks all the boxes for me. And let me shut up so Marty can throw in his 2 cents, and Steve as well if he wants to.
I don't know that album very well.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, it's a kind of a complicated one. It's one of those dense albums, but it showcases his voice just as well as those early Fates albums does.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll just piggyback on Alan's pick with. I could have picked his first mini LP. The John Arch self-titled two amazing songs on there as well. His comeback album is great, but yeah, I mean, people are talking about Ray Alder in the chat. You know, amazing singer for sure, but John Arch era Fate's Warning is my Fate's Warning, and I never really fit in with the Alder era. Good stuff. It just got a little too proggy for my liking. But this, Alan, everything he said is completely right. There are moments in his performance that bring me to tears. You know, Guardian or Exodus, Fata Morgana. I mean, what amazingly emotional performances. And yeah, he's always been a very wordy. He has a lot to say. He crams a lot of syllables into his verse. And now the choruses, he's usually very airy and not Aryan, but airy and passionate. But the verses leading up are crammed with story, and it might be a little off-putting if you're just wandering into this stuff, but he somehow navigates these amazing vocal lines, and harmonies, even though he's pushing through a lot of syllables. But yeah, John Arch is an absolute favorite, and great pick, Alan, for sure. And this is my favorite album by him, hands down. Steve, you're back.
Okay. So my next pick, which is going to be, actually, it's kind of weird because it's my favorite vocalist of this band. And I'm just going to say it. So Tony Martin, Black Sabbath. I love the Aussie stuff. Don't get me wrong, the Dio stuff, but I thought his vocals fit this style of music a lot better. And this album always, every time I've heard it, I listen to this thing, it just blows me away every time. The title track, Headless Cross, or
great song.
When Death Calls. That's one of my favorite tracks on this album. It's actually one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs. But Killing the Spirit World and Nightwing. I think Nightwing was inspired by Stephen King, I believe. I'm not sure. But his vocals on this thing, holy crap. Just soars. It's just beautiful vocals. But this is one of my favorite albums. And I don't know. It's just the vocals on this thing is the best.
Yeah, that's a really good pick, Steve. It's nice to see that Tony Martin has, finally gotten some recognition for his work with Sabbath, because back then, man, nobody even knew the guy existed for a long time.
Sabbath was at the bottom of the barrel. People.
Oh yeah,
it was tough for Sabbath.
Yeah, they were sort of over for a while there, and people, probably a lot of that crap probably came from like, oh, he's not Ozzy, we don't give a shit. But it's nice to see that people do now, because he sounds really, really good on some of those albums. That might be his best performance with Sabbath. I'm not sure, but if not, it's in the running for it for sure.
Absolutely. All right, Alan.
All right, so let's see. Next on the stack, one of the classics has to be brought up here, and he's already been mentioned in the chat. Some folks maybe he's a little over the top four, but we got to mention Rob Halford from Judas Priest. I pulled Unleashed in the East because this is the pose. This is how Halford should always be remembered. On stage, the motorcycle, the leather, the hat, it's the whole nine yards. It's iconic pose, iconic cover art, and he's an iconic singer for heavy metal. Again, he had a great voice ever since childhood. And just got involved with the band pretty early. Not their original vocalist, of course, but with kind of a revamped Judas Priest after they tried out some other things early on. And he's defined the look and the sound for really kind of birthing modern heavy metal, taking it from the 70s sounds of Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and turning it into being hellbent for leather and such. Yeah, he's still, and then he's another one like some of the others I've mentioned tonight. His voice has aged very little. He still sounds fantastic. Maybe he's lost a step, but it's not a very big step. Even on the new album, he can still really deliver the goods. See what I did there?
Gotcha.
Somebody in the chat knows what I did there. Absolutely. So yeah, Priest, has had their ups and downs. They have they've had some albums that are not as strong as others. But once again, Halford's never really turned in a bad vocal performance I can think of. Even, when they get on some of their songs that are maybe a little too corny or cheesy or just don't work. I'm looking at you, Loch Ness, in particular. Halford still, sounds just fine on those tracks. So, he's one of the, true sort of godfathers of heavy metal up there with, Lemmy and Ozzy. And he's of all of them, I think you've got to say he's probably the best actual singer of the bunch. Those other guys, have very charismatic voices. People love them for their voices. But Halford can sing circles around almost anybody else in the heavy metal underground. So got to mention him as an absolute favorite, a big part of heavy metal's culture for decades.
All right.
Yeah, Halford. Yeah, Halford's one of my favorites. I didn't pick any Halford, Judas Priest or anything, but because I figured it would be picked. So, but yeah, my favorite vocal performance by Halford's on Painkiller. Just absolute freaking masterpiece. Yeah, this is my favorite, and I like his high vocals on what is that? Angel of Retribution on Hell Rider. I love his vocals on Hell Rider.
Yep, that's a really good call. Yeah, and he's just nuts on Painkiller. Some folks I know don't like that album for different reasons, but Halford's performance, it's over the top. He just, it's amazing. It's a killer album, in my opinion.
Yep. I shouldn't glitch anymore. I just turned off my Wi-Fi, and it seems like everything is running just fine now. So.
Yep.
Good deal. Hey, no worries about it. It happens. It's one of those things none of us can control. Marty and I have disappeared for 5 or 10 minutes in the middle of a stream sometimes. Technology. Let's face it. It's all run by a bunch of goblins in a cloud someplace. And every day and then they just give us the finger for no particular reason.
Exactly.
That's right.
So no, it's all good. So all right, Marty, who you got next on your list?
Well, I'm gonna go a couple rounds here, non-metal.
Sure.
Maybe a little metal adjacent on this one here, but
Metal
I've always
adjacent,
been a humongous.
I knew you.
Nephilim fan.
I saw it.
Yep. Carl McCoy, the singer for this band, is otherworldly. He's got a beautiful singing voice and a very grovelly, dark tone, dark warble in his voice. A very, this early Fields of the Nephilim stuff is very spaghetti western gothic, which is very cool. I mean, the cover to Dawn Razor pretty much sums up what the album sounds like, but it's so good. It's so well done. The guitar work, the songwriting, and Carl just come in over the top of it. He colorizes it all in perfect ways. He lays on the grit in his voice when it needs it, and lays off into a more smooth crooning style when it doesn't need the grit. And on this one here, he really kind of embraced the grit. Really dark, foreboding vocal style on this album in particular. Check out the song Celebrate. It's just an acoustic guitar and him singing. It's a very dark song. Check out Phobia. That's the most rockin' song on the album. Could be a metal song if there was a bit more distortion in it.
Yep.
This band is fucking amazing. I love it. I love all the stuff they've done. Even though it's just kind of the Carl McCoy solo band at this point. They haven't put out a record in a long time, but it was good. They've gotten a lot more metal as they've gone. But if you're not familiar with Fields of the Nephilim, please go check them out. If you're going to love the vocals, and if you have any inkling to check out something a little more gothic, this is the king. These are the kings for me, for sure. They're a little atypical to a standard. They're not a Bauhaus. They're not a Sisters of Mercy, although they're fellow countrymen, and they share similarities, but Fields of the Nephilim just got it right on all fronts to me. It wasn't just a plodding drum machine and one bass line for 5 minutes. I mean, there's actual songs here. Very, very, very good stuff. Amazing singer. One of my favorites. Yeah, I was going to pick Susie Sue, but I got a bunch of other stuff to talk about, I guess. There's so many singers, so many good ones.
Susie's a good pick too. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Carl really has one of those. When he gets into that really gravelly tone, he almost doesn't sound human, but in a good way. Not like in he sounds sloppy or bad way. It's in a this isn't sounds the human throat was really meant to make. He's just taking it to some other different astral plane to achieve that. I don't know how he does.
I gave up on the band Watain. I've sold this story on here before. And I found out that Carl McCoy did a guest spot on, I think it's Sworn to the Dark or Sworn to the Black album. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm buying that Watain album. And he says basically 3 words on the end of the long song. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I just paid all this money for this boring album to hear Carl McCoy say 3 words. Suck it. Suck it, Watain. But yeah. Anyway, Steve, I saw you agreeing. Are you a Fields fan?
I've heard a little bit of that, but I don't have any of that stuff, so I'm not real familiar with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've seen you talk about it before, and I checked it out. I thought it was pretty good. But it's something I don't listen to a lot. So
right. Oh, Alan hasn't shown Charo yet, Rick, but hold on. I'm sure it's coming. All right, Steve.
We'll see if it makes the cut.
You're up, Steve.
So I got a death metal pick here, and the guy is talented, and may rest in peace. He passed away, but this is one of my favorite death metal vocalists of all time. And interesting fact about the guy is he also went under the pseudonym of Druten, played drums and backing vocals on Morbid's December Moon. But LG Petrov,
Lars,
his vocals,
awesome.
It's just simply freaking amazing. It just has that certain tone and quality. It sounds mystical. It sounds like he's yelling from a void. I love the reverb they put on this. And I've always thought it was quite funny is that he's a drummer, and he sang on this. They use the drum machine on it, so I never understood that. But just amazing vocalist. One of my top 5 favorite vocalists on death metal of all time. So, I don't know what else to say about this album. I mean, everybody knows this.
It's almost perfect. It's almost a perfect album.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree. Side A is the best side. Side B, some days I listen to it, some days I don't. But that first side, man, title track, Left Hand Path, and then those vocals he does a deep guttural on one part that just gives me chills every time. But amazing vocalist. Agreed.
Great, amazing album. Yep.
I think the timing that album comes out to is just perfect somehow. It's the perfect album to kind of close the 1980s with and introduce the 1990s with. Just coming right there close to the calendar breaks. It's like, okay, some of this other stuff we've been playing for years in heavy metal, it's about to wrap up, and here's where we're going for moving forward. It just feels like a gateway into the 1990s metal scene.
Yep. All right, Alan.
All right, so I've got, again, I don't have many extreme metal ones I wanted to highlight tonight, but I'll do one next. For me, Dave Vincent for Morbid Angel, one of my favorites from this genre, and I didn't pick many from this genre. It's a little hard to quantify why Vincent, made the list, but it's this combination. His voice always sounds, incredibly heavy, very monstrous, very deep, but there's also always a real clarity to it. He doesn't rely on just trying to sound all wet and gurgly. He's not relying on trying to sound the deepest or the screechiest or anything like that. But he always delivers just a very dark, heavy sound. And you can understand almost everything he says without having to, break it down with some kind of, fractal calculus equation or looking at the lyrics on Metal Archives. Which I appreciate, as someone who tries to usually pay attention to the lyrics at least a little bit, get an idea of what they're singing about. The fact that, Dave makes it easy to decipher while still just sounding monstrously heavy at the same time always works really well for me. Yeah, obviously some of his projects have turned out better than others as the years have gone by. But yeah, his, classic run with Morbid Angel early on, the vocals are a key element of that sound. Everyone always wants to talk about, Pete's drumming and Trey's guitar playing, and they should. Those are amazing qualities as well. Dave's vocals really are a huge component of why those Morbid Angel albums are so special and, really up there at kind of the upper echelon of early death metal classics. So yeah, when I was thinking, I was like, I really do want to pull one or two extreme vocalists too. And Vincent floated to the top of that list for me.
David, one thing about David that always stood out for me was has a very stately presentation and a lot of charisma.
Mm-hmm.
He sings with charisma. The way he sells it, he really perfected it a lot on Blessed Are the Sick. He really, he's really out front in the mix too, which might have put a little bit more spotlight on the performance. But man,
helps a little, yeah.
Just the way he draws stuff out, and these, the little accents he puts here, and so much charisma and confidence. Yeah. Charisma and confidence, that is a sign of a great front man, which he was a great front man. Now he looks like a jackass. Sorry, David, if you're watching. I'm sure you're not. But it just, wow. Great. I mean, I picked him as well. I picked Altars, but the first 4 albums are great. Great singer. Every time I saw him live, he was amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, his vocals are amazing. That's actually the first death metal vocalist I got into was David Vincent, and that was Blessed Are the Sick as the album. And then I heard Altars Madness a little bit later. Covenant. My favorite performance by David Vincent would be on Domination for some reason. I like his performance on that album the best out of all of his performances. It just seemed, I guess, a little bit more, I don't know, just it had a certain feel to it. It didn't sound like the other 3 albums. Each time he did vocal on each album, they don't sound anywhere close to the other albums, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
Amazing vocalist. I agree 100%.
100%. Indeed. All right. This is, I think, my last non-metal, I think. I can't remember what I pulled totally here, but goes to Nivik Ogre from Skinny Puppy. Absolutely love his vocals. And he's just, the way he can sort of sing mixed into just nightmarish screams, and puts me very much in mind of another guy that sings on this album, De Mysterious Dom Satanas, Attila. Obviously very much influenced by Ogre from Skinny Puppy. There's very definite similarities here. But yeah, all the Skinny Puppy shit's amazing. The way that they incorporated mostly synthetic music, but give it life. There was life and horror to it. It was like a horror soundtrack, some of these albums. This is where it started to get a little crazier. The one after this, Cleanse, Full, Manipulate, starts to get even crazier. Dark, scary. It's dark and scary. It sounds like music drifting in from another dimension. You're only catching it in chunks, but you got those horrific vocals of Ogre. Sometimes they're pitch shifted. They augment the vocals a bit. They put effects on them, but yet when he's singing without them, it's still, he's very much in his throat with the squeals and screams, and excellent performances. And yeah, the first, there isn't many. After Dwayne died, they got a lot dancier, but this up before he died, I mean, there's a great run of, they started out very electronic sounding, a little dancey, and then they started getting noisier as they went. And like on albums like Last Rites, the club kids were pissed because they couldn't dance to Skinny Puppy anymore, because it was like cut up noise chunks mixed in with the disjointed drum machine beats. But I don't know, man. Skinny Puppy, I know I talk about them a lot on this channel. A lot of these we're showing tonight, I've talked about a bunch. I don't care. Some of my favorite music. So if you're a metalhead and you've never heard Skinny Puppy, I guarantee check out some of the early stuff. You're going to like it. You're going to like it. They share a similar realm of darkness. And especially if you like Attila's vocals, which this would have been another pick of mine. I'm shooting it now because of the similarities. But if you like the way Attila sings, especially on this album, Attila even had an industrial band called Plasma Pool, which was a dancier version of Skinny Puppy. But this is if you like Attila's vocals on here, you will probably like Skinny Puppy. All right. Steve, you're back.
Okay. So my next pick is David Wayne from Metal Church, especially the first two albums. His vocals on this just sound evil. The best way, when I was a kid, when I first heard this thing, I was like, good God, it sounds evil as hell. And it really isn't, but it just sounded evil, I guess, back in the 80s. But his vocals just have a certain quality to it that he doesn't sound like anybody else, in my opinion. He just had his own thing going, and this fantastic album right here, and fantastic vocals that David Wayne put out. His vocals on Metal Church, the title track, I guess, gives me chills every time I hear it. Just a killer freaking vocalist.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, he really did have that kind of nasty sneer to his voice when he wanted to. That gave it that little extra touch, a kind of touch of evil. You're right.
Oh, where is it?
Oops. All right. Oh, Marty's looking for something here.
Oh.
And
all right, this is I might as well show it now. I agree with you on the first one, but I picked the dark. I think this is his best performance of his entire career. I was listening to this with my kid the other day, and man, he just absolutely slays on this record. He's hitting a lot of the higher notes. He's sustaining them. You can tell he's in good shape. His health he hadn't blown his nose out yet with all the booger sugar. But these first two records, you really can't go wrong. What an amazing singer, what an amazing band. And, you know, people in the chat earlier were talking about Mike Howe, rest in peace. I like his performances too, and especially the last two albums that he did with Metal Church. They're great. They're just as good as the early stuff. It's really, really a great band, and they've sustained it a lot over the years. They've had some ups and downs, of course, but yeah, David Wayne, the dark for me. But
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I love his vocals, especially the chorus on Let the Children Pray.
Oh, yeah.
Wayne delivers that just freaking magic.
Yeah, I mean, he sustains that higher up in Western Alliance, and I don't know. What a special moment in time for that band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, amazing.
All right. Alan.
All right. Go with another kind of classic American metal band and vocalist. Always had a very unique voice. John Oliva from Sabotage. I pulled Gutter Ballet because I wanted to highlight the fact that, you know, John actually made the transition really well with this band over time. You know, he always sounded, you know, very depraved, nasty on their earlier stuff, you know, Dungeons Are Calling and Sirens and all those albums. But, you know, as they started, you know, to kind of clean up their sound and move, you know, towards that more Broadway metal or whatever you want to call it, he was fantastic at that stuff too. You know, he could pour his heart and soul out on, you know, some of those big power ballads that they started doing more and more of. And, you know, the emotion he could convey was just outstanding. He didn't do it the same way that, you know, someone like a Michael Kiske would, or, you know, a Dio. There was always, you know, this, you know, hint of sadness that, you know, he's, you know, just, out, you know, crying in the rain, you know, completely lost and alone. And it just comes through in the music incredibly well. So yeah, the fact that, you know, he could sing these, you know, monster heavy metal tunes in the early days, he could sing these, you know, very emotional, introspective songs later on in Sabotage's career. Was just always, you know, very impressive. No one ever really sounded like John vocally either. So many, you know, the tagline was always that, you know, so many of the Paramount guys wanted to sing about, you know, knights and castles, and they kind of wanted to be, you know, the big poofy, you know, haired permed guy. And John always just sounded like, nah, he wants to just crawl around in those dungeons and sing about madness and insanity. And that's where he was at home. Yeah, very unique voice, amazing singer, working on new Sabotage material. Don't know when we'll see that come out. I was hoping it'd be this year. It might be next year. Hopefully, we will see how it goes when the time comes. But yeah, the man just absolutely sounds like no one else, and I love his singing to death. Even on the Sabotage albums, again, there's one or two clunkers in the Sabotage discography that he was on, but even there, he still sounds really good.
All right. Someone mentioned them in the chat and made me realize I forgot to grab it. But Alan was saying earlier, doesn't get much better than Kiska. There isn't many singers that can hang at that level. Jeff Tate, certainly one of them. But Daniel Hyman from Lost Horizon.
Oh. This
guy has got a bigger range than Kiska, actually. And is he as good as Kiska? Man, Kiska just has way more output, but I don't know. I don't know how I would answer that. I don't know if they're different. They're in a similar realm. They've sang on a project together, which is cool. I've heard bits and pieces of it on YouTube, but we covered this on the Album Club. This is a Swedish power metal band. Yep. Capes, fantasy, positivity, a lot of positive messages here. But this stuff has got, especially on this album, very speed metal oriented, and it is fantastic. Daniel's vocals are over the top. Absolutely great. This album, they get a little bit more keyboard heavy, but again, Daniel, you can tell he's pushing the envelope. He's throwing in these crazy screams in certain spots that don't make sense, but, and also Sacred Outcry. He's on the new Sacred Outcry. Great band, great singer. Absolute power metal elite here for sure. And it's good to hear him in a band again, doing some stuff and kicking ass. He doesn't sound like he's missed a step over the years, lost a step over the years either. So
yeah, he's with
Daniel Hyman. Awesome.
He's on that last Warrior's Path album too, and sounds great on that. So he's kind of building up a body of work here. There was a bit of a gap, but he's putting and it's with different projects, but he's putting together more and more of a resume to show that those Lost Horizon albums weren't just a random fluke from 25 years ago. That he's still delivering the goods in different vehicles.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Steve.
Oh, words. Oh, there it is. Well, another extreme artist, band, and all that good stuff. And I remember when I first heard this album in '93, I was like, what in the hell am I listening to? Because they were playing over the speakers. Went over there and found out. And the vocalist was so unique that I don't think I've heard anybody sound like this guy, especially in the death metal realm. But it'd be Annie Bowman from Demolek and Winterwolf.
Oh, yeah.
The guy's vocals are freaking hysterical. Sounds like a frog chirping and
sounds like the Predator.
Yeah. But he's the most unique death metal vocalist out there, in my opinion. One of the most unique ones. You could definitely tell him apart from anybody else. But of course, all the way from Finland, masterpiece, of course, and amazing vocalist. I don't know. It just has that certain feel to it. And I remember I was actually at a party. We was at a bonfire when they were playing this. Somebody snuck it in. Everybody was playing Garth Brooks and all that crap. and somebody snuck this damn album in there. And I remember I was kind of whacked out of my mind because I was young, of course, sitting in a lawn chair and hear this thing come over the speakers. I'm like, what in the world is that? But fantastic vocalist right here. And of course, his other band, I think this was released in 2009, Winterwolf. And it has more of a Swedish sound. And he doesn't do the croakier stuff like this, only in select parts, but he has a regular death metal vocals, and then he'll get the croakier. He'll pull out the croak, I guess. But Annie Bowman.
Yep, good pick.
Mm-hmm. Now all I can hear is like if I look at the album cover, and it's just like ugly motherfucker.
Yeah. I like the fact that his vocals really fit well with that super techy death metal too. It's a good fit. Perfect fit.
Yeah.
All right, Alan.
All right, let's get into a little doom metal here. Maybe not the one people are expecting. We'll get to that one eventually too, I'm sure. But yeah, Scott Riegers from St. Vitus. And St. Vitus is one of those bands that's been, blessed with, two excellent vocalists over the years. And they're one of the few bands that oddly have kind of gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth between those two vocalists over the years. That, you've had Scott in and out of the band. And of course, you've had, Wino in and out of the band. And, they've even had, a third vocalist with Christian, who was also a really good singer. Yeah, people have their favorites. I think, the St. Vitus fan base has always been pretty evenly divided on who they like better. As much as I like Wino's performance in the band, Scott has always been the vocalist for me because he just sounds absolutely deranged when he wants to. Wino has a great doom metal voice. Scott has a voice that sounds like he just needs to be strapped down in a padded room and you need to up the Thorazine dose. One of the creepiest, vocal deliveries on some of his material. It really gives their doom metal that extra little bit of creepy, making your skin crawl kind of schizophrenic vibe that not many other vocalists in this style could deliver. And I just picked the debut because it was the first one I grabbed. It's not necessarily his best performance. I think he got better and better with some subsequent releases. But I like a lot of the stuff on this one too. This is still a classic in its own right. And again, it's not selling Wino short whatsoever. It's just Wino fits a little bit more into maybe a traditional doom metal vocalist, especially for a lot of bands that came out of like that greater DC metropolitan, Baltimore, Northern Virginia area. But Scott sounds like he came straight out of the asylum and, probably should not have been allowed out for the weekend. So yeah, no one does it quite like him. And it just, his voice works so well with like David Chandler's guitar playing too. Cause it has, this very kind of freaked out, bad acid trip, vibe to it that just complements his vocals. So those two together, you're just not going to top that for my money. Love St. Vitus. Love all St. Vitus. Especially love Scott Riegers in St. Vitus.
All right. Well, get ready to drink, everybody. I picked this one. I picked this one because you get a band that starts out, they have a singer that everybody loves, and then that singer changes. It's always a slippery slope. It's always a slippery slope. He went from Kai Hansen to Michael Kiska, which is different, but an obvious upgrade. I mean, Kai, I love the speed metal Kai and gamma ray Kai. Awesome. Love it. I love his vocals. Kiska, Alan summed up Kiska perfectly. He's the voice. He is the voice of European power metal. He's the voice of heavy metal. And then you change again and go to Andy Darris, which when that change first happened, wasn't for me. I was out. I was into the extreme shit. Didn't care. It has taken the last bit of years for me to realize the error of my ways. I love his voice as well too. But the funny thing is, when they put out some singles before this album hit where all three singers were like trading back and forth lines on the song Skyfall. It's amazing how much Andy and Kai, when they're singing next to each other, they sound very similar to each other. So Halloween's choices, the guys in the band always pick good singers that fit them well. I think Darris took them in a little bit more, he could fit the old style, but he could also fit into a little bit more commercial slant too. But Halloween never really lost their speed metal side. I mean, there's speed metalish songs on every album. There just is. They never lost that. But all three singers in this band are completely great. I could have picked Gamma Ray stuff. I didn't. I figured I just grabbed this album because all three singers are on one solid place here. But William, I've been listening to the shit. Alan bought me Gambling with the Devil on vinyl for my birthday, and It's a great record. It's awesome. People don't talk about it. It's a great record. So Straight Outta Hell. I mean, they've got so many good records, more good than bad. They only got a couple bad ones, but anyway, Halloween. 3 of the best singers on the planet are in this band, as far as I'm concerned. So there, and I think we got the Halloween out of our system now, unless Steve has something up his sleeve here, but.
I purposely didn't pick any Halloween because I knew you would pick it.
Of course, we're my favorite band. Of course, I'm going to pick them.
Oh, yep. So my next pick is World Dane from Sanctuary.
Oh, good call.
Yeah, boy. When I first heard Battle Angels, the opening track off this thing, I was like, holy crap. And it has that cadence, and then all of a sudden it hits those high freaking notes, and you're like, how the hell is he doing that? And I think I heard this when I was in 8th grade for the first time. And it's just magic. Every track on this thing, of course. I even like the what is it, the White Rabbit cover on there.
The Jefferson Airplane cover. Yeah, they do a good job on it.
Yeah, I never understood why thrash bands did covers. They always picked the worst ones, but they happen to pick the right one, I guess.
That one worked for them, yeah.
This might make Dan smile because I just watched him tear up a Megadeth CD on Instagram earlier. But Dave Mustaine does some, I guess, guest vocals on this, and he also produced this album. But I wanted to bring out a Nevermore album because my favorite vocal performance he's done is actually on a song called, I think it's Sitting at 6 or something like that. I don't have that album, but this is the next best one right here. Absolute magic. I figure out where my camera is at because whenever I shoot videos, I can hold it the right way, and this is backwards. but yeah, World Dane, amazing vocalist, one of the best.
Yep. Yeah, and Jay going deep here with the pre-Sanctuary band Serpent's Night. Nice call, Jay. But Worrell's vocals, I was never a huge Nevermore fan, but I mean, Worrell still sounded great on a lot of that material. But yeah, the A side of that Sanctuary album with Battle Angels and Die for My Sins, that's about as good as it gets. I do like the A side a lot more than the B side on that album, but yeah, those first several songs are just like, I remember hearing it for the first time and just, it was one of those moments where like, I just stopped what I was doing. Like my jaw hits the floor. I'm just like, who the fuck is this? It was on college radio. So I'm just like, it's playing. I'm just like, who the fuck is this? And of course you have to wait like 20 minutes before they come back on and tell you what the last 15 songs are. And then I said, Sanctuary, Battle Angels. I'm just like, okay, gotta go pick a copy of that up.
Yeah, my buddy played me that song. I was actually driving around and he played that song. And it was just fist pumping. I remember we was just driving down the road going fast, and that, I don't know. It's just a amazing vocalist there and an amazing track, amazing stuff right there. But I think I'm gonna run to the pisser real quick before I piss my pants. I'll be right back.
Right on. We'll hold the fort down for you. All right, Alan.
All right, this one was mentioned early on in the chat, and so I knew we'd get there. Had to happen. Glenn Danzig. Maybe this is again metal adjacent. Came of course out of more of the hardcore scene with Misfits, and then into the, I guess we'll call it goth scene for Sam Hain. Sam Hain's always a little hard to describe. Yeah, and then kind of into his own self-titled project, which again never fits nicely into any particular bin. It's heavy enough to be metal, but it's also still very bluesy a lot of the time. It's its own thing. But the thing that ties all those projects together is Glenn's amazing voice. Often compared to guys like, Elvis and Jim Morrison, very good singers in their own right for those styles of music that they played. I think, one thing that always helped Glenn stand out was that he had an incredible voice, but he also was coming out of a scene where you didn't have a lot of really good singers. You had guys with a lot of charisma in different hardcore bands, guys that were good for that style, but that style just really requires someone with a lot of, youthful testosterone to yell at you for 70 seconds until the song's over and then yell at you for another 70 seconds. Glenn doesn't yell at you. Glenn could actually sing, and he could sing his ass off even, right from the very first Misfits recordings. You go back to like the first 7-inch they did with She, and that's a great song. His performance on it is outstanding. So even though when they were playing, just crazy hardcore stuff with all these sci-fi monsters and vampires and ghouls and creepy ass shit, Glenn's vocal performance really made that material shine and stand out. And the same when you got to Sam Hain, he can do that. He can add that spooky vibe without sounding overly cheesy about it. A lot of bands that try to do that, it starts to sound a little too goofy, a little too Halloween cartoonish. Glenn never let that happen. That was part of him leaving the Misfits. Was that he was afraid they were getting a little too cartoony, and he didn't want that to be part of his legacy.
His nipples are distracting me a little bit.
Okay, we'll here you go. We'll get down, boy, down. Get a cold drink if you need it. Yeah, there are songs where he gets maybe a little too bluesy or a little over the top in the performance from time to time. But Glenn's voice, I haven't heard any recent performances. I've heard that he does not sound nearly as good as he used to. His voice held up incredibly well for an incredibly long run of albums. Even when you got past the first 4 Danzig albums and he got more experimental, he still sounded good on a lot of those albums. 6, 7, and 8 and such. So I had to mention Glenn. I just pulled Lucifuge because I think it's one that does showcase his voice incredibly well as has a killer set of songs and obviously the best lineup that he ever had for the band. But sorry, Steve, I think you were going to say something. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but my cassette cover actually has that back cover. It doesn't have the nipple ring crap or whatever to put on it.
I have seen people. I think you can refold the booklet because this is the one that folds out into like a cross or something, or an upside down cross. I think you can refold it so that you have a different picture besides staring at Glenn's chest.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite vocalists. He was actually on my list.
Sorry.
No, that's a good thing. But yeah, his vocals, especially on Lucifuge, I really like Devil's Plaything and I guess Under Her Black Wings and Killer Wolf, all those tracks are freaking amazing.
Yep. Yes. Right. And Zach, I saw your comment. Death Red Sabbath. That is, in my opinion, the best album from later in his career. I haven't played it in a long time, but I liked that one a lot when it came out. So I was very impressed with it.
Okay, well, I'm going to pick Michael Ackerfeld, but not for anything in Opeth. He's a great vocalist. He kills it in Opeth forever. But I'm picking him for these three specific releases. Catatonia's Brave Murder Day. Bloodbath, The Vakken Carnage. Seeing it live is absolutely great. Absolutely destroys. And the 4 tracks on this Bloodbath, Unblessing the Purity, especially the song Blasting the Virgin Born. His most brutal vocal attack he ever captured on album. I love My Arms Your Hearse. I love early. He's got an amazing voice, and even his singing voice is beautiful as well. He's got a great range, but I've always really loved it for the death metal. His death metal, the timbre in his voice has just always been so sick, and it really, really comes across excellent on this Bloodbath stuff for sure. But I always loved this Catatonia album. The moodiness of it just linked up with his brutal vocals really well. Ackerfeld's no stranger. I could have showed some Opeth stuff, but these are the first releases, the 3 releases that I thought of instantly when I think of that guy. Always impressed by him live and on album. Great. All right. Steve, you're back. Hey, Patrick, what's up?
Back again. And the Opeth stuff he does I love the Opeth stuff. And I like how on some of his vocals where I'll do a growl and I'll fade it in and then they'll fade it out and I always like that. But my next pick is going to be Mark Bowles. that sang on this Yngwie Malmsteen album.
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Always liked his vocals. He also was in Iron Mask. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but I think it's sang on 3 or 4 albums by Malmsteen, I want to say. But this is my favorite vocal performance, especially like on Dark Ages. It just floats on air is the best way. Just high soaring, but floats in air, and amazing vocalist, Mark Bolson.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I actually pulled that album out a day or two ago and was like, I haven't played this in a long time. I need to get that back in rotation. Because, yeah, and like you said, he showed up on, I don't know the Iron Mask, but I feel like he was on a couple other projects here and there, and he's got a good legacy as a singer.
Yes, he's on several other projects, but I think the Iron Mask and the Malmsteen's the ones I'm more familiar with.
Yeah, I think that's one, especially after metal, that people really gravitate towards. Let's see. Yeah, Tommy, no one's mentioned Ian yet, but that is a good call. We'll see if we might get to him. It's worth it just for his performance on Child in Time, if nothing else.
All right. Alan.
Let's see here. Yeah, okay. Yes. When I told my wife what we were doing tonight, she's just like, you've got this one in the stack, right? I'm like, yes, dear. Absolutely. Roy Khan from Camelot, and also earlier from the Norwegian band Conception. Roy had, great voice for this kind of sort of gothic tinged power metal.
He's kind of perfect for it. He fits really well.
He is. Yeah, he can do that. So slightly kind of moody, brooding type of atmosphere, but still have a lot of beauty within it. Really good when they do some of the more delicate songs. One of those best vocal performances is on their 4th Legacy album. It's the 2nd album he did with Camelot, and it's a really simple song called Sailor Man's Hymn. It's it may be an acoustic song. I haven't played it in a while. If not, it's nearly acoustic. It's mostly just his voice, a little bit of guitar, and it's just absolutely gorgeous song about a woman going out to the coast, essentially every night, waiting for the ship to bring her, husband, lover, whoever it is, back to her, and the ship never arrives, but she keeps going out night after night. And it's one of those songs like, I don't care, how many bullet belts you have on, you will cry, and it's okay to cry sometimes, because my God,
even 5 bullet belts, that might.
You can have 6 bullet belts and you will still be reaching for the Kleenexes. Absolutely. It is a gorgeous piece of music. Roy was, perfect for that. Yeah. Eventually, he, kind of retired from Camelot and from metal. He, found Jesus, went in that direction, didn't want to do this anymore. That's his choice. I think he's kind of gotten back into singing in more recent years, but haven't really kept tabs on him. But even the stuff he did with Conception, and that band was much more progressively oriented. They didn't have the gothic thing going on at all. But even then, you could just tell this guy's voice was amazing for these styles of music. One of the best. And we got to see Camelot perform their first show after he left. Never going to forgive him for that. They did well filling in. They got Tommy Karavik from Seventh Wonder to fill in, and some other guys also kind of jumped in to help Camelot out to finish out those shows. Never going to forgive Roy for basically quitting about 2 weeks before the wife and I got to see them live in Atlanta 10 years ago. So, but yeah, regardless of that, still can't hold. As much as I hate him for that, I cannot deny that he is a fantastic vocalist. Every now and then I run into somebody that doesn't like him, and all I can say is there are some people that don't know how to have fun.
Yep.
So, but yeah, had to mention Khan on here. Absolutely. So,
all right. Well, I don't have a lot of lady singers on my list because I am very picky when it comes to women vocalists. Don't know what it is. Don't know why it is. I can appreciate it, but that was until I heard Annika van Giersbergen from The Gathering.
Oh, nice call.
God. I had a friend who was not really into metal, was listening to this with me. He's like, she's singing out of key. She's singing out of key. I'm like, God, if so, I don't care. It's just a very angelic voice. Mixed with this pseudo metal, they got a little bit more alternative and post rock. I don't know, as they went along. There's a couple tracks on this album, double album, that like makes me reach for the Kleenex box. Not gonna lie, and also the album between these two, Nighttime Birds. There's a lot of. It's a very depressing, sad record, but her voice just seemed very youthful and powerful, and a beauty in darkness, if you will, on these records. Especially here, she was probably her most pitchy on this one, but God, it fits so well. This is the first album she did with the band, and they're coming out of being kind of a death doom band at this point. It's a big transition for them, and to really just kind of shed their past life and jump into this new world. I mean, it paid off. They got to become a bigger band, but seeing them perform once with her was magical. She was great. I don't know. There's just something really special about this era of The Gathering. It just doesn't get old, and her voice is great. It's great. I think she was or is still married to the drummer from oh my god, Celestial Season. I don't know if they're still married or not, but they used to be married. They had a kid together. Anyway.
Cool. Really good pick. Forgot about her.
Yeah. All right, Steve.
Yeah, I've never heard of that band, but I did see those CDs used in the store, so I might go back and grab them and see what they check it out. So
Give it a preview.
Okay.
Yes, Scott. Alan was there too. We weren't together, but yeah.
Yep, I saw her at that performance. Yeah, she was amazing. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, she's this little, pretty diminutive woman, and this big sea of metalheads. She owned that stage and she owned that audience the way I have very rarely seen a vocalist just absolutely captivate people.
She had dreads and a sparkly dress. It looked like a disco ball. Yeah,
Yep.
It was enchanting.
Yeah, and everybody just stood there and stared and swayed to the music. Yeah, captivated.
Yep, good shit. All right, Steve.
Okay, so I decided to pick some other stuff because you guys showed some great ones that I picked. So I decided to cue off the female vocalist. So my favorite female vocalist would be in Mystic Charm from the Netherlands, The Shadows of the Unknown. I believe her name is Rena Riney Lipman. I'm doing that, I'm pulling it out of my head because I can't remember exactly. So, but her vocals, probably the first kind of black metal vocals I got into, even though this is a death doom album, but her vocals are very black metalish, I guess. It was the best quality to say, and I enjoy her keyboard work on this as well. But she's one of those vocalists that just, I don't know if you can see her, she's right there. Just amazing vocalist right here, especially for this type of music. But man, this album goes way back. I remember when I first heard it, I actually didn't know it was a female vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea until years later when I actually got a hard copy of it and I saw it was a female that was actually the vocalist on it. Because for the longest time, I only had it on a dev cassette, so I had no idea. But yeah, her vocals are chilling. They're very cold, and it makes you feel like you're in this wasteland.
Yeah, that's a fantastic pick, Steve. I hadn't thought of that album in a long time. That's a great deep cut pull.
Yep.
All right, Alan.
Okay. One of my favorites. I've raved about this guy far too often. I guess I have to do it again. Tim Baker from Kira Thungle. He's, for a lot of folks, he is a love it or hate it kind of vocalist. I understand why some folks don't get into his style. He is the reason some people don't get into Kira Thungle. He has a very over-the-top singing voice, and I fucking love it.
It rules. It kind of rules.
This dude, the power he can howl with is almost unmatched.
It comes up from the toe fungus all the way up and through his body. It's
all
amazing.
of the way up and all of the way out. Yeah, he's one of those guys that can just genuinely sound pissed off and angry without going in like the knuckle dragon testosterone, I'll slap you around with my wife beater shirt or kind of vibe going on. He doesn't do that at all. But my God, the man just constantly sounds pissed off and angry at everything on this planet and beyond. And it works. Fantastic. Another one who's been at it for decades and hasn't really lost a beat off of his voice. He sounds every bit as pissed off now as he did, back, in the late 70s and early 80s. And one thing that works, or I think one reason it works, there's a interview I saw with him. It's in one of the, I think it's in the Metal Blade Live 3-disc set, or they're kind of talking to about the band, because they always had this very unique kind of sound where it's very doomy, but it's a little more powerful than doom typically is. So it kind of strays into like US power metals venues a lot. And the interviewer's kind of like trying to get at like, what's the root of your sound, and how are you so unique and everything. And I don't know if it's Tim or just one of the other guys, there with Tim mentions, part of the big secret is if you actually pay attention to all of our songs, we're just a bunch of fucking California hippies, and they're all protest songs. But instead of just, writing lyrics that are like, peace, love, and flowers, or we write lyrics like, we're living on a doomed planet. And it works. And you stop and think, man, it's just like, holy shit, they're right. It really is a bunch of fucking protest songs howled at you by this insane vocalist with this incredibly heavy, doomy, but yet very muscle powered out music on top of it. And it's brilliant. And almost nobody sounds like Kira Thungle. And I don't know if anybody sounds like Tim Baker. I'm glad they've gotten a little bit of a second lease on life. It hasn't played out perfectly. COVID, really disrupted their kind of comeback plans a lot. This is their last year out on the road. They may still record in the studio moving forward, but they've made it clear that they're ready to kind of, hang up the touring. So if you're in a place where they're going to play and you want to see them, take advantage of it. I'll be sitting here eating my heart out because they ain't coming within 1,000 fucking miles of this place.
You've never seen them either, have you?
No, I've never seen them. Never. I mean, they've never been even, I don't know if they've ever been in the same time zone as I am. So it won't happen. And that's okay. I'll survive and watch the live DVD again or something. But
Right
yeah,
on.
Tim's the personality he brings to that band is outstanding. They're all good musicians. The songwriting's incredible, but it's one of those bands I cannot imagine anybody else trying to sing for that band. If they didn't have Tim on board, I don't know how in the world you would call it Kira Thungle. And I try to be forgiving about that type of thing when a band has to switch out vocalists, but man, the idea of like Kira Thungle without Tim Baker, that's not a world I want to live in.
Well, really think about it. If you take Tim Baker away from Kira Thungle, what do you have? I mean,
you still have a great power.
It's a great band, but is it as special?
It really might not be. It'd be, who knows? I guess it would depend on who you replaced him with. And there'd be a lot of vocalists that could do a good job, but there's only one Tim. There really is.
Yeah.
We're all special and individual and unique, but some of us are more special and individual and unique than others. And Tim's on that list.
Yep.
So with that, I'll take my fanboy pants off and pass it over to Marty.
Oops, that's not Marty. There we go.
I can pass it over to Steve if Marty needs a moment.
It doesn't matter. We'll all get around to it. Right in the same realm, and another polarizing vocalist, and that would be Mark the Shark Shelton.
Yeah.
If you either love it or hate it, man, but if you love it, I love his deranged wizard style, and the more he smoked and ruined his voice on live or recording an album or something, but the more haggard his voice got, the more I loved it. Towards the end, he's really, really raspy, but God, it's still so unique. The warble, like Necropolis. I mean, crazy how he sings on there. The vibrato, it's like an extreme weird vibrato that he throws around. And again, he sounds like a deranged wizard.
Yep.
I've got every single one of the records, all on vinyl except for the glam album, Circus Maximus. I'm not going to get that on vinyl. That's not worth having on vinyl. But this is a special band in the metal world that didn't get its due when they were working hard making their most seminal albums, but the comeback time finally caught up, and the people finally understood what Manila Road brought to the table, and I'm glad he got to get a glimpse of that before he passed. But God, great singer, great band, 100%. If you're into the epic metal style and you don't know Manila Road, then you need to make some changes.
That's hard to grok. Could you be seriously into epic metal and not be familiar? It'd be like trying to be like, I'm a major thrash fan and I've never heard Slayer.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, that can't happen. I mean, you're new to epic metal and you haven't heard Manila Road. Okay, that's fine. If you're hardcore in that style, you have to have heard them. I mean, the sky is blue, the grass is green, and you have to have heard that fucking band.
Yep.
You just have to.
Have to. Are you a fan, Steve?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I got several Manila Road records here. I think I got 3 or 4 on vinyl and a bunch of CDs.
Yep.
But my favorite album by them is Mystification.
Oh yeah, great one.
Yeah, that's not good one. But
it's their thrashiest maybe, but it's great.
The drums on that.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, the drumming on that is insane, especially on Deluge. That drummer, holy crap!
He always had amazingly sick drummers. Even at the end, Nudie, I guess his name is. Great drummer. So technical and so much flow and tasteful fills. Great.
Absolutely. Right. Okay, so, man, I picked a whole bunch of power metal vocalists. I just realized, but my next pick is going to be Michael Vescera from Obsession, and
cool.
I want to get this out here so you can see it better. But this vocalist for me, I like the first album. Don't get me wrong, but I think this is my favorite, Methods of Madness, and his vocals has that grit, but still a real clean soaring high vocals. And man, this album freaking rules. I think I want to say his name is Mike Mascara. Did I say it right?
That's how I would say it. I don't know for sure, but that's how I'd pronounce it.
And I have a Yngwie Malmsteen album. I think it's called Alchemy that has him doing vocals on that one as well. I got everything by Yngwie Malmsteen. But I think he did vocals on Alchemy, but his performance on this album is just freaking top notch. One of those albums I could play every single day, and I mainly look forward to listening to this thing because of the vocals. But man, the music that goes along with the vocals are exceptional. It's just a high caliber band that, for some reason, needs more recognition. I don't hardly see a lot of people talk about this band, but.
I've never heard that band. I always saw them in the bargain bin at Camelot, and I never picked it up because of the covers.
Oh man, yeah, that's why I originally bought this on cassette back in the day because of this cover. I was like, this has got to be heavy metal, and I was expecting, actually, when I first picked it up, before I even knew anything about it, I thought it was going to sound like Possessed because of the you can't see it, but the logo art for the name kind of looks like Possessed, 7 churches in a way. So I was thinking, when I first bought this, I thought it was going to be like that, but then popped it in my cassette player, and then that first track came on, and holy crap, it blew me away. But vocalists on this freaking insane.
All right.
Yeah.
Alan.
Nice call, Steve. Yeah. Obsession had one of the better comeback albums back. I mean, it's been a long time now. When did that come out? Carnival of Lies was 2006. And of course, most people are like, yeah, sure, whatever. But he still sounded great on that album. That was, I was like, wow, I'm surprised this band came back, and I'm glad they did because, they really nailed it even then. Let's see. All right,
I know they were
show
kind
one.
of friends with Fates Warning back in the day. Reading Jeff Wagner's book on Fates Warning, they
Yeah,
talked
they
how
were
they
both,
looked up. They looked up to Obsession a bit. They were signed
Mm-hmm.
first and were out playing a lot more shows, bigger shows before
They were
Fates
both out
were.
of that kind of Connecticut kind of scene, which
Yeah.
not the most prolific place for heavy metal bands in the country. But yeah, I want to show one, and then I've got 2 hungry cats that are driving me nuts here, so I want to go feed them. But before I do, one of the real unsung talents in U.S. power metal, he's been around forever, and people kind of know him, but I feel like they've never quite gotten their due. David DeFay and Virgin Steel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, here's another guy that classically trained, not only vocalist. I mean, he can do something like 4 octaves. It's nuts, but also classically trained pianist, and he incorporates a lot of that into Virgin Steel's music quite to very good effect over time. These guys go back to the earliest 80s. They're in contention for releasing one of the first heavy metal albums to come out from an American band. Plenty of British bands were releasing stuff around 79, 80. America is kind of slim pickings, but Virgin Steel was right there, practically from day one. And yeah, just gorgeous falsetto voice when he uses it, great mid-range voice too. And he's another one. He can deliver with a ton of power when he wants to. He can absolutely nail the sad, yearning kind of ballads when Virgin Steel does that. Virgin Steel covers a lot of ground. Different albums go for different things. But yeah, he's always been the one constant, focal point in the band, and with good reason. Even some of the cheesier ones, some of these Age of Consent, not necessarily everyone's favorite pick for a Virgin Steel album, but at least on this edition, the track list starts with The Burning of Rome and Let It Roar. This is another one. This album does not have a great reputation. I got a cheap promo copy of it. I put it in the CD player for the first time, and I'm just sitting there, I'm just like, holy Christ, he sounds amazing. What are people thinking bad-mouthing this album? Yes, there are a couple of songs that get a little more, glammy and a little cringy later in the track list. He still sounds good on that material. It's not the best material, but there's some fantastic stuff on here. Again, there's one, was it Silent Mansions, I think? Perfect Mansions. And it's just this huge, spacious song that is not an easy one to come up with vocals for, and DeFay just fills the space absolutely perfectly. So, yeah, they're still around, still kicking. I do feel like his voice has maybe lost a little bit over time, but he's been doing it for 45 years. He's allowed to, not be at the top of his game after that much time. But yeah, they're still around, still releasing stuff. I can't remember if they've got an album out earlier this year or last year. The last couple of albums, I've just kind of, never sat down and given the time to digest them. But absolutely, if you like, those, higher singers, David DeFay, Virgin Steel, great stuff. A band I would like to see maybe get just a bit more recognition before he has to hang it up and retire someday. Steve, sounds like you're a fan.
Oh yeah, I like I have a couple of Virgin Steel. I don't know if he did the vocals on this, but I know members from Virgin Steel.
The Exorcist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know on that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He doesn't do any clean vocals on this. If it's the same guy, I'm not.
It's a death metal album. Yeah.
It really is.
It's good.
And it was, 1985.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of those guys, and that's a good point. Some of those guys from Virgin Steel and some of those other New York area bands, they did moonlight under different project names from time to time.
Pile Driver was another one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Pile Driver was a Canadian. Basically, that was a one guy in Canada that they just a label fabricated that as a gimmick because they figured it would sell, and they were right.
Yeah, I think Exorcist is the same thing. Virgin Steel owed some studio time, and that's how they paid it off.
Mm-hmm.
So record an album like that real quick.
Yep. But yeah, a lot of those guys like Jack Starr did that kind of thing with a couple of projects. The drummer Joe Hasselvander, I think, kind of moonlighted on some of those kind of things. So it was definitely a kind of gig that they got into. But I'll pass it over to Marty, and I'll be back after the kitties get some num tuna treats to get them to shut up.
All right. Well, we're going to polarizing singers again. This is obvious. Another obvious one for me. Probably during this era too. The end of Fate to the beginning of King Diamond. His voice, falsetto style vocals are not new or unique necessarily in metal, but to remain in that register for a good share of your singing time is kind of a unique way of doing it, I think. And it really catered to the evil essence coming up from the music, contributed to the spooky atmosphere. And he was great. I loved the way he switched effortlessly between his sinister mid-range to that just evil fallen angel falsetto. Just so good. So good. Dark, scary. I've been listening to that new, everybody's talking about this Attic band, and I've been checking out their latest one on Spotify. And have you heard any of that stuff, Steve? The Attic?
No, I haven't. No.
It's basically the guy is singing exactly like King Diamond. And the music is good. It's kind of black metal-y, kind of old school traditional metal, but there's some blast beats here and there. I'm just wondering, would it be as good if the guy didn't sound like King Diamond? I mean, I don't know. But this is a great style. He's been imitated here and there, but not as widespread as you'd think. There's not as many King Diamond clones as you would think out there, which is a little bit surprising, but
not many people can hit that freaking high range.
Yeah, and sustain it. And it's even been a struggle for King over the years. All the touring, when he was touring a lot, plus he smoked those Danish cigarettes all the time. It wrecked his voice. It really kind of wrecked his voice. You see some live bootlegs and he was struggling sometimes. So, but since his heart bypass and quitting smoking, his voice sounds amazing again. It is a good thing that they're not widely copied. That's why I'm still on the fence about the Attic. I like it, but I'm liking it because it sounds like King Diamond, I think, more than what the music is.
Yeah, there's another band from Sweden called Portrait, and the vocalist does a lot of the same kind of high bravado King Diamond kind of stuff. And actually, when I first plugged that, listened to it, I think it was released in 2011. I can't remember the name of the album, but the guitar tone had that Merciful Fate, Melissa kind of sound, and then the vocals, it was just a copycat. But I still like the album. But I guess if I'm going to listen to King Diamond, I'm going to listen to Merciful Fate or King Diamond, and that's where I'm going to go with that.
Yeah. All right, Steve, you're back.
Okay, so I'm going to pick a thrash metal band, and man, I didn't know. I had a hard time picking which album I wanted to show, and I guess I could have showed both of them, but David White or Godfrey from Heathen.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and man, Victims of Deception. Holy crap. Breaking the Silence as well, but good grief. This one right here, heavy as balls, but the vocals, the music's so damn heavy, it's just kind of weird to have vocal like his over the top of it, but it fits it perfectly, I guess. And that was the first I ever heard vocals getting carried over a very heavy ass background, I guess is the best way to say it. But holy crap, this is the shit right here.
Good album.
Yep.
Good pick. All right. Alan, are the kitties satiated? We're good.
Tantalizing turkey flavor. So they each got a handful of these, which hopefully they'll end up like this cat and go to sleep and shut up.
How many cats do you have?
2, and that's enough.
2?
Yes.
Yeah. Right now there's probably 8. I literally have 8 cats.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and right now they were reaching underneath the door trying to get in here. They always want to get in here.
Yep, same here. I've been letting them in here with me a little bit lately while my wife and little boy are visiting family. So that otherwise they just sit at the door and do the same thing constantly. So I'm like, okay, get your fuzzy butts in here. And Now every record I own is covered in cat hair, so that's never
That's
getting cleaned up
exactly-
completely.
Yeah, that's exactly why I won't allow them in here.
Mhm.
I've seen people show their records where their cats scratched them up like a scratching post. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
ooh.
Yeah, I won't.
Yeah.
They do not stay in here if I'm not in here. You know, when I leave the room, they leave the room. But they're pretty good. They mostly just want to hang out and be close to me because I'm the only person in the house right now. But anyway, one last note on the King Diamond discussion. Y'all were mentioning some other bands that are kind of have similar vocalists. There's a new band called Demon Spell. They've got an EP coming out soon, and they're also going for kind of that early Merciful Fate vibe. It's obviously not as intricate or complex. I really like the way the vocalist handles his King Diamondisms, though. He's not going for the falsetto nearly as much as like the guy in Attic is. The guy in Attic wants to do the falsetto all the time, and it wears a bit. The guy for Demon Spell is definitely sticking to the mids a bit more, and he has a very good kind of mid-range tone that's close to King Diamond's. His falsetto is not nearly as good as King Diamond, so he doesn't lean into it, and I think that's maybe to their credit. So that one might get a shout out in a heavy metallurgy review sometime next month as we get closer to the release date. I think it's coming out on Dying Victims Productions, which does a lot of really good traditional metal stuff like that. So yeah, a quick early plug for the Demon Spell project.
Cool.
All right. High time this one came up. Folks have mentioned it on and off in the chat tonight. The Mad Monk himself, Messiah Marklin from Candlemass. And I picked the live CD. This I thought was a really nice capstone to Messiah's classic run with Candlemass. I'm not always the biggest fan of live albums, but this one, everything just sounds absolutely great on. It's Candlemass at their finest. Yeah, and this is another one of those situations where it's really hard to imagine anybody else singing on those albums like Nightfall and Tales of Creation. Marklin, maybe not the best technical singer in the history of recorded music, but he just has such a unique, characteristic voice. He really does sound like they dredged him up from the basement of some Gregorian abbey somewhere, and he just can has such volume. He really can give those songs that sort of just extra big, hallowed, cathedral-like quality that fits the music absolutely perfectly. It's exactly what they needed to make this project a success. Their original vocalist was great too, don't get me wrong. Epicus and the fellow that sang on that's a great album. But yeah, I think Marklin really gave them more personality than they would have gotten if they'd kept the original guy on board, which they wanted to do, and he just wasn't interested in staying on for the project at the time. He's back in the band now, of course, years later. But yeah, Marklin, yes, he can sound a little goofy. To some people, the whole monk costume and the giant, afro hair and stuff, was a bit of a turnoff. Maybe made it seem a little too campy. But it is the bar by which most most doom metal is measured. If you're a doom metal band, the first thing most people are going to want to know is like, how much do you or do you not sound like Candlemass? And that's a huge testament to their legacy. And Marklin carved out, the first big chunk of that legacy. They've had other good vocalists since he left, and he came back for an album, of course, in the early 2000s. But yeah, it's always going to be that run of albums he did with them in the 80s that it's almost like the entire doom metal genre lives in the shadow of that body of work. So yeah, he did something right because everyone is still using it to compare themselves to today.
Alrighty then. Early on mention of this guy in the chat, but John Cirrus.
Oh, very good call. Forgot about that.
Man himself right here. He's a bit wackadoodle, but the output he's put out, or especially these early, this is a speed metal classic to me. I love Skeptic's Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Agent Steel early on. Their second album is really good too. They started to try to maybe dip into a little bit more commercial style, but it still rules. His voice is just cracking the sound barrier with those super high pitch operatic screams that he does. But even his I like the style in his delivery when he's just singing verses too. It's different than anybody else in this genre.
Mhm.
And what a great combination mixed with speed metal, power metal. And this is when Kurt Kohlfeldt from Holy Terror was still in the band, and little foreshadowing because I'm going to show a Holy Terror CD here later on. But Agent Steel, Skeptic's Apocalypse. This is a classic, absolutely great. I can't remember. Oh, Dwayne sent me a new Agent Steel album. I was surprised how decent it was. It wasn't terrible. Was it?
Yeah, it's
Was it
it's
as
not
good
bad at
as
all.
this stuff? It really isn't, but it's still, he still could do it. I don't think he's as youthful sounding or effective, but still good. Still good. Agent Steel, awesome stuff.
Yeah. Side A of that album is flawless.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there is
Bleed for the
nothing-
Gods. Oh my God, what a ripping ass song.
The whole first side of that album is one of the truly perfect sides of a heavy metal album. That there is nothing that can be improved on that entire first side of that record.
Guilty as Charged though on side 2. I mean, come on.
Oh, side 2 has really good songs too.
Children of
but
the Sun's a good song. I don't know.
Side A is just frame it and put it on the wall. It's
They go for the throat for sure.
It is,
It's great.
It is perfect.
Yep.
I haven't listened.
What is it about that second album? There is something about that second album that is just a little off. And I've never put my finger on it.
Well, the ballad, but it's still good.
Even
Traveler,
beyond
is that the name of the song? The Traveler, and then I
don't
love the
remember.
song. That song Rager.
Mhm.
That's a good
It
song.
has its moments, but there is something about, and most people are, like, yeah, the second album's really good too, but there's always a but.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't quite finger that but. That came out horribly wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
You were gonna say, Steve, you haven't listened to them in a while.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, man, I was picking out speed metal bands, and I forgot all about. I can't believe I forgot them.
Well, you
Same
should put
here.
on Skeptic's Apocalypse one of these sometime this weekend because man, that album
Actually,
rips.
I'll probably do that tonight because I'm planning on hanging out in the cave and jamming to quite a few of these albums. That might be the first one I spend. It's been a
Right on.
while since I listened to that one.
Okay. Well, Alan's fingering that butt. We'll get over to Steve.
Okay. Well, speaking of speed metal, it was actually the next one on my deal is Attackers, The Second Coming, and well, who's the vocalist on this? I wrote it down
Oh.
so I wouldn't forget. John Leon, is that right?
I do not remember. I'll have to
I had
check.
to, hold on a second. Attacker.
Yeah,
I
it's
got
not
it queued
good.
up.
Yeah, that's John Leon. So, but this is one of the very first speed metal records I ever heard. Is this one? Actually, this very copy I bought. I can't remember when I bought this. I bought it at some garage sale, and I thought it was cool because they had machine guns on it. I was like, it's got to be freaking awesome. So,
Well, the first album vocalist is Bob Mitchell.
Yeah.
Mhm. But yeah, John Leon's on The Second Coming.
The Second Coming. Yep, John Leon.
Leon's on it.
Yeah, okay.
I always wondered if he's married or related to Lather Leon from Chastain.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know. There's no mention of it on his bio over here. He passed away a long time ago. Wow, I didn't realize he died that early on.
Yeah, all the good ones passed away, but still got Hart. But yeah, this is one of those albums that I listened to a lot back in the day, and I don't know. It's just one of those that's going to always stick with me, like most people with Halloween and bands like that. But yeah, this is a beast, and the vocalist is freaking amazing.
I only have the first one by that band. I have not heard any other than the debut.
They're
Yeah,
still around.
they-
They had an album out this year, or I want to say they did produce something earlier this year, but I might be. a year
Yeah, I
off.
don't know. I only knew Battle of Helm's Deep and that one. That's the only two I know.
Mhm.
I don't have Battle of Helm's Deep, but I think they reissued it with new artwork, and I was like, man, I like the old artwork. I wish they
That first one, that was a cover. That's a Metal Blade cover if there ever was one.
Oh yeah, ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
released the God Particle in back in April on Cruz del Sur.
Huh.
We had a promo for that. I was kind of surprised nobody jumped on it.
Oh, we did? Oh, shit.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we did because well, maybe we didn't. Sometimes we get Cruz del Sur, sometimes we don't. But I feel like we got that one. It kind of slipped through the cracks because I was super busy in April, and yeah, never got around to checking it out.
All right, Alan.
All right. I realized I did not end up pulling a ton of thrash for this for some reason, but one that I did pull, always loved this guy's voice. He sounds very different than anyone else and still does. Bobby Blitz Ellsworth from Overkill. I just pulled Horoscope because it's one that people don't talk about as much as some of the others, but still sounds very good. I know Bobby's voice, a big thing with him is, he's got a lot of that kind of punkish snarl that not a lot of thrash singers incorporate into their vocals. Oh, be quiet, Bobo. You're full of tuna. Go away. Cats. But yeah, I always really liked, he's got, just real extra heavy dose of piss and vinegar in his vocals. Nasty sneer to him, very full of New York kind of attitude, but without it sounding, cheesy or over the top or like it's, being put on as an act. It's just the way he sings, and it's the way he's pretty much always sang. There's very few albums where that component is missing from his voice. There's a time or two, certain albums where maybe he sounds a little more tired or he doesn't quite get there. But yeah, most of the time, Blitz, it just, has a great performance. Always liked, that, yeah, they had that little punkish streak in their music, especially early on. He's one of the most identifiable thrash metal singers for me. I mean, most of us can pick out a lot of these guys very easy, but it takes like 3 words out of Bobby's mouth and you're just like, yep, that's Blitz.
Yep.
There is no doubt. Again, we're getting to the point with these bands like, Addicts and stuff where it's like, okay, that's is that King Diamond? No, that's one of these other King Diamond sounds alike. There's no Blitz sound alike, and I don't know
really
if there
isn't.
ever will be. And it probably should be that way.
Yep.
So yeah, Overkill is one of my picks from the thrash metal shelf. I always really thought his voice added a lot to their outstanding music.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Nobody sounds like Blitz whatsoever.
Yeah. Those early albums, he sounds really deranged.
Yeah, especially like, man, on Feel the Fire, some of the stuff he does on that, especially during that I guess chant part in the middle of the title track.
Yep.
I thought that was the evilest thing I ever heard in my life. And
that's a great point, Steve. Yeah, he had this very wicked kind of sound to it. I mean, he was one of the guys that genuinely sounded like he belonged like on like a some kind of horror movie soundtrack or something with that kind of voice.
Yeah, and his vocals on Sonic Reducer, that cover.
Yeah,
I like it. I like that way better than the original. That's one of those.
I agree.
Yeah,
he's a better singer than Stiv Bader was. That's for sure.
Yeah,
the Dead Boys. Yeah.
I've tried to get into the Dead Boys so many times and I never quite get there. It's one of those bands I want to like them. I know they're cool and maybe I'm just not cool enough to get them or something. But yeah, I agree, Steve. They kill that cover of Sonic Reducer. That's a fantastic cover song.
Yep.
All right. Well, people in the chat were like, I'm waiting for Bruce. Where's Brucey Bruce? Well, I'm going Iron Maiden, but I'm picking Paul Di'Anno. He is my favorite singer for Iron Maiden.
that's a heel turn right there. Pull that kind of move on the chat. Oh, poor shame.
I know. I'll leave Bruce to someone else in the show tonight, which I like Bruce as well. Don't get me wrong, but I love the character and of Paul Di'Anno, and this is his best performance he's ever done. It just is. I have not heard every single record that he sang on over the years, but I've heard a handful of them, and he always sounds like Paul Di'Anno, but this here is great. And he's actually singing up in a higher register on some of this stuff. Some of his screams are right up there.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bruce Dickinson needed to happen for Iron Maiden to continue on and grow. Paul, I think, was only going to top out with this record. I think this was the best as he was going to do and get. I don't think he was going to go the distance. There's no way. He didn't take care of himself. He smoked. He drank. I'm sure Bruce did a little of that too, but Bruce had career in mind, whereas Paul came into this band when they're a pub act, and then started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. He had his place. He had his time. He did a U.S. tour with them. 2 or 1, I can't remember. They played the Rainbow, so I mean, obviously they got around the U.S., but these first 2 Maiden records are very special, and they're excellent, and every single song on this album is still relevant today and could land on any given playlist. It still sounds like Iron Maiden. I liked the fact that Paul sang with a bit of grit. You could tell he sounded like a street brawler to me, and I liked that. A leather-clad punk guy trying to sing in a metal band. It works for me. I think it's great. It's a great combination. Those new wave of British heavy metal twin guitar harmonies mixed up with his singing style. Perfect. This is a perfect record. This is a 10 out of 10 record. Not even a question. Not even a question. Yep. Paul Di'Anno. He's on my list. I don't even feel bad about it.
You should feel bad about the way you brought that up. Oh, you guys were finally ready to remain, so here you go. Yeah, I know. It'd be like
sticking it to you.
It's like it's time to get into time to bring up the Deep Purple segment of the show. Let's talk about Rod Evans, everybody. If this was a wrestling event, the crowd would be throwing their chairs in the ring at you right now, sir.
I'll be the Judas. I'm not afraid.
Marty has turned heel on us here, Steve. It's up to me and you to kayfabe the rest of this.
Well, crap. I'm going to show it anyway.
My brother.
Yeah. This is the very first heavy metal album I ever heard. It's this right here. And this is the reason why I play bass guitar, is because of this album. And so I'll just briefly say, I love this freaking album. So I'll move on to the other guy, since you showed that one. And show Bruce Dickinson. This is I hate to say it, but I know somebody's gonna slap the shit out of me, but I'm not a huge Bruce Dickinson fan on the Iron Maiden stuff. And there is some good stuff he does in Seventh of the Seventh Son. I love that, his vocal performance on that, and some tracks on Number of the Beast. But for me, his best vocal performance was on his solo album, Tattooed Millionaire. But
that is a hot take. That is a fucking hot take. I love it.
I know somebody's gonna kick the shit. I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan. I wear a shirt and I love a lot of their stuff. Not saying Bruce Dickinson is terrible, but
me either.
But I like the Paul Di'Anno stuff, and I wish we had more Paul Di'Anno Iron Maiden. But
it would have been interesting hearing him sing some of that Number of the Beast stuff. It would have been interesting.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he could do it. Honestly,
I don't think so either.
There's some of it I agree. I don't think he could have pulled off stuff like "Hallowed Be Thy Name." But I might be wrong. He pulled off "Remember Tomorrow" and that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a chance it would have worked.
Yeah, I think he might have been able to pull off maybe Prowler. No, wait, not Prowler. Invaders. Sorry, wrong album. Yeah, Invaders and stuff like that. More.
He wouldn't be able to hit that high note. I don't think. Do you think?
Maybe not.
I don't know if he could.
He may not. He'd have to approach it differently. Mm-hmm. But Bruce Dickinson, Tattooed Millionaire, I love his vocals on that, and Chemical Wedding, and what's that other one with the clown?
Accident of Birth.
Yeah, that one.
The Tyranny of Souls or something like that. Tyranny of Souls is
Tyranny of Souls came after Chemical Wedding.
Chemical Wedding, yeah. Not as good as Chemical Wedding, but
still good, but not as good.
Yeah, I hated the Tyranny album. I don't even own that one, but I do have Accident of Birth and Boston Picasso. Is that the name of it? That's actually my other favorite one. The first 2 solo projects he did was freaking outstanding. And Accident of Birth was okay. It had some good songs on it, but it's not one I go to compared to those first 2 albums. And Seventh of the Seventh Son or Somewhere in Time, I do like his vocals on those, but man, I don't know what it was when I was a kid. I just couldn't hang with his vocals too long. I'd have to go back to that Iron Maiden Killers every time. I thought Paul's voice just fit Iron Maiden better, in my opinion.
I do like Bruce and Samson. You know, Rick mentioned Samson. I like Head On. That's a great record.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate Bruce, but I prefer Diano.
Yeah, I do too.
Jurgen got here just in time to say that he's probably drank Bruce Dickinson under the table, and I love it. All right. Alan.
Okay, well, we've all shared a moment here with, yes, the Iron Maiden roundabouts and
Bait and switch.
Just all right, let's moving right along, sticking to I've done a couple of doom metal ones, so I got at least one more here. Rob Lowe in Solitude Eternus. This is their second one, Beyond the Crimson Horizon. I picked it because it's got a really good picture of him on the back. But yeah, this was one of the few bands that really could measure up to Candlemass in terms of getting that big ethereal kind of timeless sound in doom metal. There's lots of different flavors of doom metal. Some bands go for a more kind of dirty sound or sludgy vibe. Some bands it's a little more kind of 4/4, just heavy metal with a little bit of a downtrodden vibe. Again, lots of bands measure themselves against Candlemass. A lot of them don't measure up that great. Solitude Eternus was one of the few projects that came along that really could emulate that classic sound. And they owed a lot of that, to having a spectacular vocalist on board that could really do a lot of, that same kind of stuff. He could, sustain the notes. He had, the register they needed to perfectly nail that atmosphere. Solitude drifted a little bit away from that on some of their later albums. Still sounded incredibly good. One of their later albums, he sounds really he gets a little bit more Scott Regers-ish like on one album where he's got a little bit more of that deranged kind of schizo vibe, and he does it really, really well. Of course, sung in a lot of other projects as well, of course, as serving a stint in Candlemass. Some of those albums are really good. Some of those albums not as hot for different reasons, but his voice has held up pretty well across those projects. Definitely, one of the really recognizable voices in doom metal that's done a really good job on it. And Jeff, our buddy over at Gas Masks and Hand Grenades, interviewed him here just in the past month or two. So if you haven't checked that out, you can go see what's on Rob's mind here in 2024. But a great band and another one that just they had the perfect singer for what they were trying to accomplish, which was unusual. This was at a time when doom metal not particularly popular, and coming out of a scene in Texas that didn't have a lot of this kind of stuff. There was a great Texas metal scene, but it tended towards the more aggressive side of things, with a lot of thrash and heavy thrash at that. To have a band kind of gear it down and go back to the Black Sabbath Candlemass kind of basics, that was a very different path they trod, and it worked out great for them. Great vocalist in Rob.
I'm typing it, but I understand it's Frosty. Yeah, Rob Lowe sang on King of the Grey Islands by Candlemass. It was his first album with Candlemass, and it's great. He's great on it. But after that, it slipped a bit for me, but he still sings good. He just got a little too follow the riff for me.
He did get a little bit lazy
albums
in the band, and that was part of the reason he eventually had to leave the band. But at least one or two after that are still pretty good. The last one he did with Candlemass was the one where it really shows. It's like, this is not working so hot right now.
No. All right. I'm going in a completely different direction here, but I've always loved Blaine's vocals from The Accused. Holy crap. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about an insane, crazy sounding singer? Blaine. There he is. Blaine Cook is his name. I think he goes by Blaine Fart here. And he was in a band in Seattle called The Farts. It was a kind of a punkish band with the bass player for Guns N' Roses was in that band for a minute. Duff
Yeah.
McKagan. Yeah.
Hmm.
He was a Seattle guy, moved down to LA, but yeah, he was a punk guy as well, and was in a band with Blaine for a minute. But yeah, the Farts were good. I love The Accused. Love Tommy's riff writing. I know they had a falling out, and basically some old members of The Accused and Blaine went on to be Accused AD. There's been some suit stuff going back and forth, but I think it's all sorted out now. Also, Blaine is in another band with some of the guys in The Accused AD called Toe Tag. But I don't know. I always really loved Blaine's voice. He's just absolutely sick and crazy. And I'm thinking, how in the hell does he sing like that? Then you hear him talk. It's kind of like Blitz, Blitz from Overkill. You're like, how can he sing like that? Then you hear him talking, like, oh, he kind of talks like that. Blaine is the same way. He's got this high kind of weird voice, and you could tell that when he screams, it's just a natural extension of his regular speaking voice. But I love The Accused. All the stuff with Blaine on it is great. After Blaine left, they got the dude from, I think it was a bass player or the drummer from Burning Witch. I think it was the bass player from Burning Witch that ended up being the singer. I might be wrong there, but it's an obscure enough thing. It might be correct. But he tried to sound like Blaine, just couldn't do it. But big fan. I don't know if you guys are Accused fans, but this is the best crossover band there was. I don't care. I love early DRI. There's some definite great crossover bands, but for me, The Accused crushes them all. So good. Holy shit. Sick riffs, great vocals, perfect mix of metal and punk. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love The Accused, especially that album. And there's two albums I'll listen to at the same back to back, I guess. Is that Accused and Macabre's Gloom. They kind of have that same kind of feel.
Oh,
They sound freaking insane. The vocalists definitely sound insane on those.
Yep. Yeah, they went to, after that album, they went to Nasty Mix, and they put out Grinning Like an Undertaker, which is great. And then their comeback album, Oh Martha, is fucking great. It is a perfect album. So good. Yep. Anyway, you were going to say something, Al? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just saying, I like what I've heard by the band. I've never sat down and really worked through much of their stuff. It's always been like a song here and a song here. But yeah, they've always sounded like really good. It's one of those bands I just haven't gotten around to.
Excellent palm muted riffs, man. Tommy was a fucking riff merchant. So catchy and heavy and perfect. So tight. Good.
And damn good bass playing on that record too.
Yeah. Great bass tone. They really... Yeah. Oh, you know what? You're right too. The Cryptic Slaughter, the first three Cryptic Slaughter albums all rule too, Jurgen. You're correct. Yep. Italy's Raw Power. Good. My old hardcore band opened for Raw Power when they came through Detroit back in the day. They were good. Anyway, Steve, you're back.
Yeah. Okay. So another death metal pick here. Very high up in the vocals of Don Slano with an organ. So, you know what cracks me up is when I first heard Slipknot, I was like, he's trying to be like Don Slano, especially Orthodox on that clean vocal part on this song. I was like, man, Corey Taylor's ripping this guy off.
Steve, don't do a dirty trick to make me listen to Slipknot, because I've gone this far with not having to deal with it. Don't make me have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, Corey Taylor's clean vocals sound exactly like Don Slano. But of course Don Slano did it first. But I love his vocals, especially. I think it's on the Somber Lane, that high. Like almost King Diamond kind of. Yeah. Yep. And amazing. And as well, I think he's a prodigy. If I watched some videos where it looked like he's maybe like 10 years old and he's playing in a band when he's 10.
Yeah. Well, his brothers are all, he's got two brothers and they're all musicians as well. It's a musical family, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's a lefty and he flips the guitar upside down and doesn't restring it. So he's playing everything, all the chords backwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I know Ben on Metal Bastards. He's also a lefty. He does the same thing. I think he flips the guitars upside down and just plays the strings. He doesn't restring it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, the guy is talented. But yeah, when I first heard Unorthodox, the title track, I guess it has a couple of parts. It's about a witch, and it's about somebody going to hell and somebody going to heaven. I don't know. There's a preacher in it. He does all those vocal parts.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's ever done that again on anything else. But it always blew my mind on this record, especially. So, killer vocalist.
I picked him as well. I picked Crimson. I could have picked any of the early stuff. I love his voice. I love his brutals. I love his clean. And if you, I don't know if you're familiar with the project he did more recently called Witherscape. They put out 2 albums. It's really good. He's a really good mix of brutal death vocals again. And because there was a long time he was kind of wanting to get out of the brutal vocals because they were killing him. He didn't like doing them because they hurt. But he's back doing them again, and he's great. Great, sick vocalist. Great
what's
pick.
The name of that? What's the name of that project?
Witherscape. It's kind of like his version of Opeth. It's very Opethy sounding, kind of proggy, but it's killer. The second album is the better of the 2. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my Witherscape. Yeah,
I never heard of it. So
oh, right. Alan. He's going to show Faster Pussycat.
No, Fatter Pussycat.
Oh, Fatter Pussycat. Yeah.
I got 20 pounds of dumb love in my lap right now.
Looking for more food.
This is like the most needy cat in the history of felines. He is super sweet, but he has to just curl up in a lap and get rubbed down every few hours, or he just has these. He would just walk around the house with the saddest meow, like somebody ran over my kittens. So okay, big guy, you can don't mess with that. All right, you sit there, and I will pet you, and I will show CDs with the other hand. All right, so I'm not going to be typing in the chat for a little bit while dealing with Bobo the Magnificent here. Next one. Okay, this is a metal adjacent thing, more of a kind of hard rock. They were associated with glam and hair, which was never the right billing for them, but it was the 80s and bands got put in weird boxes. Still around. I've always loved this man's singing. It is James Christian, shown there in the middle of the picture. The band is House of Lords. They had a couple of, very minor sort of, MTV appearances, like latest 80s, early 90s. The band was originally formed by the keyboardist from Angel, was kind of their claim to fame, how they were kind of getting a foot in the industry door at first. And they just always did, very quality, 80s hard rock material. Did a few albums, but, that, of course, petered out as soon as grunge came along. Broke up, got the project back together in the 2000s, and they've had an excellent run ever since. Guys kind of come and go in the lineup a little bit, but Christian's always there on vocals. He has a very distinct voice, very soulful, very moody, great tone, has just enough coarseness to his vocals to give it a little bit of weight, but, can still sound, very pretty, very airy when the song calls for it. This is one of those just random bands that's a pet band for me. They release an album almost every 2 years like clockwork. I will buy almost every single one of them. I don't always find it. Sometimes I miss one here and there. They obviously don't get a ton of press or hype, but when I find out, there's another House of Lords album out, how many Amazon points do I have? Next time I order stuff, it's going to be thrown in.
You're the only person I've ever heard talk about the band. I've never heard about them until you mentioned them.
Yeah, I never hear anybody else talk about them either. But they've been around just on the reunion gig alone now for over 20 years. So they have a following. Their stuff's on Frontiers. If you know that label, you know exactly what to expect from this project. Frontiers always does, very classy, hard rock bands that, again, are metal adjacent. They're not glammy. They're too good to be put in like a glam metal category or anything. Some albums are a little better than others. They released one of their best ever in late 2022, I think it was. They're due up for another album sometime this year. I haven't seen it drop yet, but it'll probably be here. If you like that kind of, again, a little bit of, keyboard stuff in the background, definitely going to be part of the music. But yeah, James Christian, a great underrated singer in this style, and check him out if you like that style of stuff. And with that, Bobo wants both hands petting him at the same time. So we'll go to Cat Cam while Marty goes to his next pick.
Tony says he wants to listen to Chameleon.
You can do that if you want to, Tony. The cat just wants this. This is all
No,
he wants.
he says the cat wants to listen to Chameleon. That's why he's here.
Oh, Bobo's too dumb to listen to Chameleon. This is all this cat wants. He will sit here like this for the next hour if I let him and keep petting him with both hands.
That is hilarious.
He's a big sweetheart as much as he drives me nuts. All right, Marty, you take it away while I give Bobo his rub down.
All right. Well, one of my favorite black metal vocalists has always been Nocturno Culto. I loved his vocals. And the thing that bums me out about newer Dark Throne is the fact that he changed his vocal style. He did it when they went kind of crust punk there for a minute with Fuck Off and Die and The Underground and Below. Is that the name of it? I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's been a while since Dark Thrones and Black Flags. I always thought he just had the most despondent, nasty, evil vocals, and all of his stuff during the black metal years are great. Hate Them is the last album I truly thought his vocal performance was great. This is the last Dark Throne record. I mean, I do like Sardonic Wrath as well, but I love this record. This has got some great songs on it. Definitely check out Hate Them. But and Soulside Journey is like my favorite Dark Throne record. That's the first Dark Throne I heard. I thought it was amazing death metal. It had the feeling, a dark atmosphere. They sound like an evil death metal band. And I hated this when this came out. I thought it was absolute garbage. But like all things, you don't have much money. You spend your money on a tape. You end up spending a lot of time with it. I end up getting it. I'm like, oh, okay, he's going for a Bathory thing. So, I mean, it came around on me, and I liked the vocal change. I thought his Panzerfaust is another one where his vocals are just grating and just absolutely sick and evil sounding. But Nocturnal Culto, always been a favorite of mine. He's often imitated. There's probably people that do him better than he now. Although I will say, I showed it on Wednesday night. I pre-ordered the new Dark Throne record. I said I was done buying Dark Throne records. The strength of the new single, of the first single, I thought, wow, this actually sounds like a good song. It took forever. I finally got the new record. I got it this week, and I got to say, I think it's a good record. They're actually trying. They're writing songs. They're more than two riffs. There's stuff going on in the music. Do I love Culto's voice? I don't love it, but the music is good. I'm kind of surprised. It's the best thing they've done since Arctic Thunder. So take that as you will. But we've all gone through the Halloween stuff, Simon. You're late. But whatever. You can watch you can watch it later. They are totally savage, Zachary. I agree with you 100%. All right, Steve. Sorry, I went on a bit there.
Oh, that's okay. Steve, how many more do you have that you want to show just to see where we're at in our rounds? Because we've gone through a bunch of stuff already.
I got a bunch. Yeah. I mean, I pulled a shit ton.
I pulled a shit ton too. So whenever you guys want to call it, it's good with me.
Okay.
So.
Now, it's good. Yeah. I'll pull a few more because I've gone through like 17 already. So I just wanted to check. Yeah. But yeah, I'll pull a few extras.
Right. Okay. So next pick for me is a female vocalist, Debbie Gunn from Sentinel Beast.
That's a good album. It really is.
Yeah, this is killer. And the Iron Maiden cover on this is really good.
Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. Yep. But this is man, when I first heard this, I wasn't much into female vocals for some reason, but when I was a kid, but I heard this, I was like, okay, this is all right. I like her vocals. I think I mainly liked the music, and then later the vocals really grew on me.
Real bass dominant, thrashy stuff. It's good. I like it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is a killer freaking. I don't know if it's speed metal or thrash metal. Probably a mix of both. But I don't know. I think the reason I heard this was Kerry King was talking about it, I believe.
Okay.
Or if I remember right, then that's how I heard about this band. Anyway, but yeah, that was vocals right here. Killer for this kind of music, for this kind of thrash metal. speed thrash or whatever you want to call it.
In that realm, I also like Detente, Recognize No Authority. That was a good, was that Don Crosby on vocals on that band?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was good shit. All right. Good pick.
Hadn't thought of that one in a long time. Very good pick.
Yeah.
All right. New wave of British heavy metal bands. Not all of them had amazing vocalists, but most people, I think, would agree, at least many people would agree, the voice for that movement was Sean Harris from Diamond Head. Yeah, here was a guy who was an extremely talented singer, in a band where just all the pieces were coming together just right, and yet they kind of didn't make it over the top somehow. They were there at the beginning of the movement. They had enormous positive press coverage, very, very talented lineup across the board. But yeah, Sean really made them stand out in a sea of bands that were, could all be very good, but most of them lacked, that top-notch singer to really take them to the next level. Diamond Head had that singer. He took them to MCA. It's not like the band did poorly. They released at least 2 albums for MCA. Maybe there's a third one I'm forgetting. But things just didn't quite, the timeline on things was a little too slow. They were late to arrive on MCA, so the movement was kind of losing steam. That first MCA album had a lot of older material, and some of the newer material was going in a different direction, and all yada, yada, yada. But nevertheless, early Diamond Head material is as quintessential to new wave of British heavy metal as it gets. And a big part of that, is his voice. People may not, always be into a lot of this scene, but yeah, anyone can listen to that, Lightning to the Nations era material or those early singles and realize that, yeah, that dude is very talented as a singer. He knows how to use and control his voice. And it's a real shame they didn't, go further. Their aspirations were a little different. When you read interviews and stuff with them, they weren't looking to be the next big heavy metal band. A lot of their influence came more from the Led Zeppelin camp, and some of the 70s hard rock type of stuff. So, that didn't quite work out for them either, of course. But Harris's, vocal performance on, just even these early songs where some of them were still, the songs, while fantastic, maybe weren't fully fleshed out, maybe still, in an early form. And he still just takes them to another level. So, yeah, well, one of the great voices out of the new wave of British heavy metal. Bruce Dickinson tends to get, all the credit for that now because his band went on to fame and fortune. But Sean Harris, better vocalist back, at least at that stage for me. Samson is okay. Samson's never been my favorite band from that era. Bruce or no Bruce, but Diamond Head and Sean Harris can run rings around them, and always could. But some bands make it, and some bands just don't.
Absolutely agree. I've never seen that album cover.
Okay, the deal with this one is the Lightning never really had a proper release back in the day. You had the white album versions with just the plain white cover. This burning map cover was used by a German label that released Lightning to the Nations, but there's always been conflicting accounts about did they have all the right permissions to do so. Some people said they gave permission. Some other people have said they didn't have permission. So it kind of floats as a, maybe a slightly unofficial release of the album that happened. I don't remember exactly when. It was a year or two after the white album version. So the German copies with this cover showed up maybe more like around 82 or 83. I'd have to double check. But this is just a nice CD anthology that came out a lot later on High Voltage Records that has all the early material from Lightning and all the singles and stuff combined. But yeah, you'll see this cover. I think it was called Wolf Records out of Germany was the company that ended up pressing Lightning with the burning map cover.
Yep. This is more of a compilation, but it's basically Lightning to the Nations with bonus tracks. But that's the album cover I have.
Yeah, and that was the first one that yeah, that was the first kind of version of the album I had back in the day too. That's a good collection, absolutely.
But yeah, I agree with you. That's an amazing vocalist. Amazing.
So good, so good. Yeah.
All right. Well, people mentioned him earlier in the chat tonight. I'm not going to pull a bait and switch this time, but ICS Vortex or Simon Hesnas. I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly, but singer for Borknagar. He's also been in Dimmu Borgir. He was in a doom metal band called Lamented Souls, which is really good. He sang live for a minute for Ved Buenens Enda. But yeah, this guy has got, the first time I heard him sing was on the song The Chaos Path on the second Arcturus album, La Masquerade Infernale, I believe it's called. But yeah, this album is his one and only solo album. Is called Stormseeker. I love this guy's voice. I think he's way out there. He's also an Arcturus, if I didn't mention that. I did. Anyway, sorry. The White Claws are starting to seep into my my brain a little bit. But I love his voice. And on this album in particular, he pulls out some 70s influence. I hear some Carpenters on this, which you wouldn't think that makes any sense. But the way he's phrasing reminds me of Karen Carpenter on a couple of the songs. But I don't know. I've always really loved his voice. It's so pure and so strong, and he seems so free with his phrasing. He throws these higher register parts out there. He's just amazing what he can do with his voice. And you know what? Human Falafel, I've always struggled with Winter Sorg's voice. And he does okay. And when they're all in the same band together, it makes sense. They gel really well together. But Siemens' voice is always, his black metal vocals are really sharp and on point. And his clean singing. I prefer his clean singing, but both styles are really good. Check out the Archaic Course by Borknagar, of course, and the new Borknagar.
Okay.
Surprisingly great. I was really shocked, especially I can't remember the name of the damn song at the top of my head. There's one song on there. It's just absolutely stunning. But Simon Hesnes, ICS Vortex, what a great singer. Highly unique, a definite standout singer in the black metal realm. All right, Steve.
Okay. So the first band I ever seen live, the first show I ever went to see was actually a White Lion show. They were actually headlining back in, I want to say 87, 88. I was probably in 8th grade. But there was this band that opened up for them. And I want to say that the vocalist's name is Michael Olivria. Can't pronounce it, but it's Leatherwolf. So, but it's hard to see it. This is the only cassette I have. I bought that at the show. This is the actual cassette I bought at the show. But his vocals blew me away that night, and I wasn't really there to see White Lion, but White Lion was pretty good too. The guitarist was insane, but this band right here just took the show for me. Never heard of them, and I don't know, that guy's vocals soared and just carried, and I don't know, just kind of I guess just a heavy metal album, kind of glammy in some parts, but power metal as well. I don't know, it's hard to describe this one, but great one.
I think Jeff sent me that cassette, and I haven't gotten around to listening to it yet. I think that the tab, the fuzz was the felt was broke off of it, so I struggle with tapes, man. Every time I get a tape deck fixed, it breaks. Tapes still piss me off. After all these years, they still piss me off.
That's because they're tape. They're supposed to piss you off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still listen to my tapes. I still have most of my collection. Half of it was destroyed, but on the other side of the house, this kind of stuff was saved, I guess.
Oh, you had a fire? Did you have a fire?
Oh, no. No, of course, Joplin. We got hit by an EF5 tornado.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, it destroyed. That's why most of my collection is reissues, because I'm rebuilding my collection, because most of it got destroyed in that tornado.
Oh, my God, dude.
Yeah, Cassettes is the way. That's my main thing I bought when I was a kid was a cassette or
Well, me
vinyl
too.
record.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
CDs, I actually hated the sound of CDs back when they first came out. I couldn't stand them. I thought they
A lot of them
sounded
didn't sound very good. Yeah.
yeah, I
They were
couldn't
so
stand
quiet. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Ellen.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. Leather Wolves is a hard one to describe. They're in that little niche somewhere between glam metal and hard rock and power metal. Right in there somewhere. Not a lot of bands fit that little niche. Good call. All right. Kind of surprised this one hadn't come up by now, but Blackie from Wasp.
I was going to pick him, but I figured someone else would.
Fair enough. Somebody did.
Yep.
Obviously, very charismatic frontman, has been at it for a long time. Has gone through some changes. Obviously, is Christian now. Some of the albums he's done, post conversion, are still very, very solid. But another one just has a very distinctive voice. He is not the most talented singer in the history of music, but he has a very good emotional range. When they do their angry anthemic songs, you really do get the sense this guy could go out and just set fire to the whole world and watch it burn down. But when he does the more, introspective or ballady kind of stuff, he can absolutely reach right into your chest and pluck those heartstrings. He can really convey those, feelings of sadness, of loneliness and loss and isolation incredibly well. And I think that's always been a big part of his appeal to people. Yes, people love it when he does the crazy over the top stuff, animal fuck like a beast and all of that. But that's not all he can do. He can also do the hold on to my heart type songs. And some people will always scoff at the metal ballads and whatever. But when they're delivered as sincerely and as heartfelt and as with as much emotion as Blackie pours into those songs, I think they really connect with a wide audience of people who would get kind of tired or wouldn't pay that much attention if he was just constantly singing about how big his balls were and, all that kind of material. So yeah, the fact that he can play both of those roles, he can be the insane madman, and he can also be, this just, heartbroken, lonely soul. It works. It's amazing. He can do both of them so well. And it's, for me, it's one of the big reasons that Wasp stands out. They never were just a one-trick pony with Blackie singing. They had layers, like an onion or an ogre, and then wandering into animated film quotes now. So it's probably time to stop that one. But Wasp's another one of those. Some albums are definitely better than others. We've covered their discography before with Darcy, but they all have Blackie singing, and there's very few times that you feel like Blackie's just not there. He can deliver on almost any of the albums, even the ones that aren't so great. They at least have Blackie singing on them.
What's up, Dennis? Good to see you, man. All righty then. I'm up next. Okay. A sign of a good singer is how many other singers copy you, I guess. And one guy that has been copied a lot in the modern death metal world has been Martin Van Drunen.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
This guy has got a very strong characteristic in his singing style. He sings, you used to be able to tell it's him. And I think today, as many people that try to sing like him, he still sounds like him a little bit better than most of the copycats. But also, he moved from Pestilence into Asphyx. Absolutely love The Rack. It's one of my favorite records, and he's just absolutely brutal. 100% brutal. And here, this album here, there's a song called Dehydrated. He sounds dehydrated on this entire album. Just absolutely sickly and dying. Hey, Ken, what's up, man? Yeah, we've been showing some black metal. There's been some black metal in the list for sure. But Pestilence, like I said, the sign of a good, truly unique singer is how many people copy him. And modern death metal has been loving to copy him for many years now. But
there's a whole cottage industry of how to sound like Van Drunen.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
he rules. This album rules. Asphyx rules with him in it. And cheers to Martin Van Drunen. He was in Bolt Thrower for a minute. Also Hail of Bullets and other stuff. Royal Blood Court or something is another band he was in. I don't know. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Great singer.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. He's another one that, he can always sound, even with that, weird raspy sound. He always sounds heavy, and he's always pretty discernible when he's singing. He's not relying on some gimmicky voice to hide what he's singing, which I always appreciated about him.
Yeah, he sounded really frantic on a lot of his stuff, especially the Asphyx stuff, and always thought it sounded real frantic.
Yep. 100%.
That's a good way to put it, Steve.
Falafel. You know what? I love Jeff Walker's voice, especially in the early Carcass. I totally forgot to grab it. Good. There's going to be a bunch of shit that doesn't get talked about tonight. There's probably going to be some stuff I got here that I pulled that we're not going to talk about. But Steve, you're up.
Okay. So another unique, since we're talking about death metal again, I decided to pull another death metal record, but I don't think anybody sounds anything like John Tardy.
Nope.
From Obituary.
It just got mentioned in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that. I was holding it in my hand and I saw that pop up there. But yeah, no, his vocals. He sounds like an insane escaped convict on this record. It's the best part. And man, it just I remember when I was a kid listening to this for the first time. I was like, what in the hell is this shit? And I wasn't into death metal at that time. And I think, what was it? I was in ninth grade maybe when this came out. So it was about when I was in ninth grade. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with that guy? And it kind of scared the shit out of me. So I was a little bit older and grew to appreciate death metal vocals like this. But yeah, he stands alone. There's nobody that sounds like John Tardy.
Nah. Great singer.
Yeah, he was, one of the first really extreme death metal vocalists that people freaked out about and started wanting to try to, can I sound as fucked up as Tardy? If so, I can sing in a death metal band. If not, they're not going to let me in the band.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and that album right there in particular, I think that's his best vocal performance. But he sounded unworldly, unearthly. I guess I should say on that one.
Yeah. You read interviews with a lot of these early death metal pioneers, and they all cite that vocal performance. They're just like, it just sounds like he's puking into the microphone, and we wanted to sound like that so bad.
All right, Alan.
All right. Let's do a non-metal, but metal adjacent one. Someone mentioned this in the chat earlier. It was a good comment. I didn't pull it at first because I didn't know how much non-metal stuff we would drift into. But Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. Great vocalist. Bad Motorfinger is always the album I go to for Soundgarden. But a very, very talented singer. He brought a great dimension to this band. He could sing the kind of weird off the wall stuff they would do sometimes. He could sing the heavier stuff they would do. Soundgarden had a pretty wide palette, and Chris just seemed to fit all of it, which you wouldn't think one guy would sound great on all those different styles that they did. The songs that made it into top 40 stardom for them, he sounds great on that. They were one of the bands that managed to sound really heavy, yet still found a really good degree of commercial success. I was always amazed at how well songs like Outshined would do, because if you take it out of the MTV context and you just listen to it, it's like, that's a heavy fucking riff they're playing in that song. Same for some of their other stuff, but Chris could make it sound very genuine. He wasn't trying to be a metal singer. He wasn't trying to be a pop singer. He just had a great natural voice, and it fit the material so well. even on some of their later stuff, when the songwriting quality maybe was dipping some, he still sounded great on that stuff. He did guest vocals here and there, and I haven't checked out a ton of that stuff, but anytime you hear it, it sounds good. And he's another one of those voices you can still just instantly recognize. He could be singing, he could pop up in the background of some early Taylor Swift thing, and you'd recognize, like, oh wait, no, that's Chris singing back there. You can still pick him out. So Soundgarden, one of the bands, one of the more popular bands from the early and mid 90s that I always really liked, because I thought they were really heavy, and because Chris was just a great voice.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. This is other project, Temple of the Dog. His vocals on this are freaking insane. And it's about, I think that Bad Motorfinger in this one was released about the same time period, around the late 90s, not late 90s, but early 90s.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. Yep. Yeah, I'd forgot about Temple of the Dog, but yep, that one's right there around that same time frame.
Yep. That reminds me of high school. Every time I see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Mike, I got to thank you for reminding me. He's one of my favorite singers, and I totally forgot to pull it tonight, but you saved the day, Mike. And J.D. Kimball from Omen, the best metal singer in the U.S. for his time, maybe, in my book.
He's in the conversation. He's definitely in the
conversation. Obviously, this is the most immature of the albums, but I love it. The vocals get so good. Warning of Danger. Oh, my God. And, of course, The Curse. These first three albums, you're not going to find a more soulful, good singer than J.D. Kimball. He was fantastic. And mixed with Kenny Powell's Maiden-esque riffs. God, this band was so fucking good. Why weren't they bigger? Was it just the time? They dressed up in the garb and the gear, and I don't know,
they
man.
Just got lost in a sea of bands at the time.
They got lost in a growing sea of bands, but they had an amazing singer, and they wrote some amazing songs. This is, if you think of Metal Blade Records in the early 80s, this band, this sounds like Metal Blade. This is the Metal Blade sound, 100%. Yep. And this band is fantastic. And again, a very bluesy, soulful singer. He just, even on the more ballad-esque type songs here and there that creeped up, so much passion and emotion in this singing. I've always loved J.D. Kimball. Rest in peace. Cancer's a bitch.
Yeah, fantastic voice. Another thing that probably hurt that band, just in terms of timing, they were coming up about the time thrash was really starting to take over a lot of people's attention span. If Omen could have hit maybe just a couple of years earlier, they might have gotten more of a footprint. Mm-hmm. But yeah, by the time those albums are coming out, so many people was just like, if it's not Raining Blood, I don't give a fuck. And Omen was never a thrash band. So
no, they're a U.S. power metal band, man. They're just
yep,
100%.
Yeah. Kimball would be in that conversation.
Yep, 100%.
Conklin.
Yeah, that Battle Cry is a freaking awesome album. When I was a kid, I called them the American Iron Maiden.
Yep.
Especially that album. It sounds like the debut Iron Maiden album to me. Mm-hmm. It's a killer one.
All right. Steve. 96 people in the chat. Good to see y'all here tonight. Thanks. A lot of new faces, too. Cheers to everybody for checking us out. We appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe. It helps. Helps us out.
Yeah, tons of good stuff in the chat. Sorry if we missed some comments in the chat along the way. Getting to as many as we can between lots of albums to show, people to talk to, and giant cats to feed. Can only get to so many.
All right. Steve.
All right. Okay, so I saw this in the chat earlier. Somebody brought this band up, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but since I seen it in the chat, I'll say Michael Sweet from Striper. Soldiers Under Command.
I struggled with that early Striper. His voice was so effeminate, very effeminate.
Yeah, I have to agree, but this album, I don't know. It's one of those albums that, I guess, I just grew up with this album, and yeah, you're right. His vocals kind of sound feminine. That's definitely for sure. But I like the vocals on this, but the guitar solos is what I really like this album for. But I thought I'd show that. I saw somebody mention that in the chat, so I thought I'll pull that one out.
Good pick. Good pick.
Yep.
Alan.
Yeah. Here's a really good one. CBN mentioned that none of us have shown yet. Yes, the vocals in Warlord were outstanding. Yep. Let's see. Go for a more modern power metal band that's a little more on the progressive power metal vein. But a Swedish band called Seventh Wonder and vocalist Tommy Kervik. He's got one of the best, if not the best, voice in this style of power metal I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of this style of power metal over the years. Perfectly clear voice, total control over it. Has a good upper range. Doesn't go falsetto or anything like that, but can hit high notes, and it's all absolutely effortless. Is kind of the big thing. He does great vocal parts, with emotion, melody. And when you listen to it, it just sounds like he's doing it as easy as breathing. But when you stop and think about it, it's just like, wow, that's actually not an easy vocal line to do. And this guy just nails it effortlessly. Tommy, for a long time, was doing vocals for both this band, Seventh Wonder, and Camelot. He was Roy Khan's replacement. And he's just earlier this year, or maybe at the end of last year, announced he's not going to be singing with Seventh Wonder anymore. Part of that may be commitments with Camelot, but it sounds like he also has some other projects that he wants to work with. It is a real shame. Seventh Wonder is one of the really underappreciated power metal bands of the past 10 years. Again, they're a little more on the progressive side, but they do incredibly strong song-oriented material. The thing that most people kind of start to go, ugh, and hold their nose about when you get into, progressive power metal is it's too much show-off wankery. It's the Dream Theater problem. Seventh Wonder does not have the Dream Theater problem. These guys know how to write incredibly good, catchy, well-crafted songs. The song always comes first. The incredible instrumentation and perfect vocals go into making the song. They're not just there to show off what they can do. This is their third album. It's called Mercy Falls. It's a concept album. Hard story to follow, but pretty interesting. It's either the first or second with Tommy. I think they had a different vocalist on their debut, and I guess they're about to have another vocalist again. But here's hoping they can find someone of a similar caliber. They've got very big shoes to fill with Kervik no longer being part of the fold. But yeah, he's an amazing vocalist. One of my favorites. That's of the newer wave of bands that's come along. And these Seventh Wonder albums like Mercy Falls and The Great Escape, and the one they just did a couple years ago called Tiara, are top-notch stuff. Don't let the progressive tag scare you away from giving those albums a listen. They are very, very deserving.
All right. Let's go next with me.
With you, sir.
Thrash metal legend. Great singer. Saw him live once and he blew me away. Russ Anderson from Forbidden.
Wow.
Absolutely killer singer. He can follow the riff a bit. He gets a little riff focus, but especially, the first album is great. Forbidden Evil, awesome album. But you get to this one, Twisted into Form. The songwriting got a little bit more mature, a little more traditional metal seeped into it, mixed in with the thrash. Russ is perfect for the combination. He's just a great singer. It seems like the new guy they have, a few live things I've watched, seems like he's pretty good. Even Omega Wave, I've never heard Green or Distortion. I've never heard either of those two records. They're hard to find, and every time I say I'm going to buy those, I go to look them up online. I don't need them for $50. I just don't. But amazing vocalists, Bay Area legends, and they don't get the love I think that they deserved. They were such a great band. 100%. Great musicianship, great singer. Steve, did I snipe one of your picks? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to show that one too.
Yeah.
but great minds think alike. So
Yep.
I'll go to the next one.
Old bastards think alike.
I'll just show the next one. Cities. I think the guy's name is Ron Angel, I want to say. But a little bit on the glammy side. It's traditional heavy metal with power metal vocals and all that good stuff. But this was an absolute classic when I was a kid. And this is the actual record I bought from the record store. It's still alive. But his vocals are, I guess, very, I don't know who to compare them to, but they're just some great vocals right here and great freaking album.
Oh, that's a cool pick. No one ever talks about Cities. I don't know
Doesn't
a
have
ton
a-
about
remember
them,
a
but
Twisted Sister in that band, isn't there?
The drummer is, yeah. I believe
Yeah.
it's the drummer.
I don't have much of their stuff, but I've got at least one of their albums, and yeah, it's quite good.
Yeah, that's very good. I used to have the EP that came out before this. The EP doesn't have that brick wall around it. It's the same cover art without the brick wall. But yeah, this is a fantastic album. The vocals on it are insane.
Awesome. Alan.
Alrighty, let's go with an 80s US power metal classic. Again, gets very, very few mentions anywhere. After he got kicked out of Virgin Steel, Jack Starr did one solo album that's actually very, very good for a solo album. And then he formed a project called Burning Star because his name was Jack Starr, Burning Star. You see what he did there. Their first album was called No Turning Back. This is the reissue cover art. The original just has a picture of Jack kind of doing the "here's my guitar" kind of pose. It's an album that got very overlooked at the time, and I guess it still gets overlooked a lot. It is a great album. It has a real European power metal flair to it, and this came out in 1987, so it's a little bit ahead of its time, coming out, the same year that Halloween did Keepers Part 1. The vocalist on here is a fellow named Mike Torelli. He's been in a few other projects over the years. Nothing that stands out to me as really noteworthy, though. He's had a long stint with a band called Holy Mother, which I'm not familiar with. He stayed with Jack Starr for the first 3 albums, I think. Burning Star is still a going thing. Jack's done a lot of albums over the years with this project, different members, of course. But Torelli's vocals on this one are incredibly good. He's got a very clean, clear, and pretty high voice. He's closer to that kind of Michael Kiske type of voice, but can really get into the high registers really, really easily. Again, it gives it kind of a European power metal flair. With the way the vocals are handled here. It's very different from what most US bands were going for at that time. If they had, the more straightforward singers or wanted somebody that was a little bit, tougher sounding, Torelli goes in exactly the opposite direction. One reference point that's a little more common, he's a little bit like Tony Moore from Riot in their Thundersteel and Privilege of Power area. Torelli's kind of in that same camp of being able to really do the big, high, soaring kind of vocals. It is a fantastic album. Definitely deserves more praise than it gets. I'm not real familiar with the other Burning Star albums. I see them from time to time. Never have picked up many of them, but No Turning Back is just one of those lost gems. There is one critical glaring flaw to this album, though. And it's the cover song, because, of course, there's a cover song. And where's it at? Yeah, track 3, side A. It's a little too early for the cover song to begin with. And it's especially too early to do a cover song of James Taylor's Fire and Rain.
Oh, God.
That'll suck the energy right out of your fucking album. It takes a couple of songs for them to get back up to full speed after that one.
Good Lord.
Bad choice. Despite that, this album still deserves a lot of praise, and Torelli deserves a lot of credit. He really has a killer performance on that album. But yes, be careful what you cover.
Right.
All right, Marty, pass it over to you.
All right. Well, I mentioned talking about him earlier, and I'm going to probably pick this for the next album club, but Holy Terror, Mind Wars, I'm talking about Keith Dean. Rest in peace, Keith Dean. 2 albums. I like the first one a lot. I love this one. This is coked out speed metal to the max, and somehow Keith Dean could eke out a vocal harmony line in the speed and chaos. And he's also kind of has the John Arch syndrome going on, where he's cramming a lot of words into the delivery, the rapid fire style, but he somehow hits into this higher register and makes it beautiful. It's crazy. It's a crazy juxtaposition between his clean singing, melodious clean singing style and that Kirk Coldfelt speed metal. It's great. This band was fucking awesome. I really wish they would have blown up. I would have loved to follow up to this. I mean, where would you have gone from this? I don't know. Would it have been faster? Would it have been the same album twice? Or would they went crazy and done? They're from Seattle. What do they do? Go grunge? I mean, I don't know. Kurt went into being Zeke at one point, that band Zeke. But man, I love this record. I'm not going to talk about it too much here because we're going to probably talk about it here in another week or two. But I always love Keith Dean's vocals. Great singer. Highly underappreciated band and vocalist. Love it. Great band.
Nice pick. Here's a question that we can all lose sleep over until someone sits down and does the math. Who can cram more syllables into a single verse? Keith Dean, John Arch, or Martin Walkyier? Think about it and do that and break out the calculator.
Well, I think Keith Dean had the tougher job because there was speed involved.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the register was faster. I mean, Sabbath was fast. Fate's Warning wasn't necessarily fast.
No, but still, just for again, regardless of pace, all 3 of them just packing an incredible amount of words into their lyrics.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one.
Keep
Especially
trying, Carl. They rule. I can see people not liking them. Keith's vocals are maybe a little weird for that style, but always loved them.
Yeah, Carl, if you haven't, maybe if you've only tried Mind Wars, maybe try Terror and Submission first. I find that album's a little easier to get into than Mind Wars, just because it's Terror and Submission is like at this level, and Mind Wars cranks it up to this level. They're both excellent albums, but Terror and Submission might be the easier one to ease into it a little bit with.
All right. Do we want to make this our last round, fellas?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, we probably have one more anyway.
Okay, because I mean, I still have stacks, and people are saying a part 2 is needed, and this is a broad enough. We could do a part 2 and 3 easily on this for sure. All right, Steve.
Okay, so my last one. Dang it, I only have this on cassette. Well, I'll take the J card out, but Keel with man, what was that
Steve
called?
is closing with the Keel.
Yeah, the final Frontier with of course Ron Keel from Steeler, and I think he was in Saber Tiger as well. But man, if I could get this right, you can't hardly see the artwork, but holy shit, this was the tape I listened to the most. I think when I was growing up, I wore the damn thing out. But that's the vocals on that, and it has that cities vibe, and it has the all the other stuff I showed. It seems like the Leather Wolf, and I was going to show this, but you guys beat me to it. Fate's Warning.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's my last one I have.
Oh.
All right.
Nice pick. I was thinking about Keel a week or two ago. I can't remember why, but it came up somewhere. But yeah, cool. All right, my last one. I will cheat just a little bit, but folks have been asking about this band all night.
Frosty says did he say Keel? I stayed up for Keel. Yeah.
No, Ron's voice is quite all right. Yeah, folks have been asking about this band in the chat quite a bit. I know Mike brought it up earlier. They went through a lot of vocalists, and as we talked about earlier, that can kill a band pretty quick. This band always seemed to land on their feet when it came to vocalists, and I'm just going to do a real quick run through because I love all their vocalists. We're talking about Riot. Riot started out in the late 70s with Guy Speranza on the first 3 albums. Guy's got a terrific voice. It was very lively, fit the tone of the music really perfectly. Most people, of course, gravitate to Fire Down Under. I've always loved the debut album, Rock City, just a little bit more, though. After Guy left the fold, they had to get a replacement, and they brought in Rhett Forrester. Rhett has a very different voice. It's a lot more, a little bit, southern bluesy. Great vocalist, though. He sang on that Jack Starr solo album I mentioned on the last pass go around. And they did 2 albums with Rhett. Restless Breed, which is not my favorite in their catalog, but then the excellent Born in America, which gets overlooked. Forrester left. The band kind of had to be took a few years off and reinvented themselves as more of a power metal outfit with Tony Moore on vocals.
And rules.
And the album rules, and a big part of that again is Tony can just absolutely wail on these tracks, and it's exactly what they needed for that style. That only lasted for a couple of albums. So you get into the 90s, the band has to sort of, start over again, where this is going to be vocalist number 4. And they bring in a New York kid, Mike DeMeo, who had been in some local projects. DeMeo, again, has a different voice than all these others. He has a voice that's more oriented towards, he was in Master Plan after Jorn Lando left. And his voice is great for that kind of stuff that leans into a little bit more of the melodic hard rock side. And yeah, Riot did a ton of albums in this era, like Nightbreaker. This was kind of the first one that had a lot of the demos just try and mic out. It's so good, Metal Blade released it as an album.
It would have been hilarious if they put the seal head on that shark. That would have been fucking hilarious.
It would have. Well, they put it on this copy of Nightbreaker where the seal's in the moon. Yeah. So they also released Nightbreaker. They didn't put it on the bird's head for the European version of Nightbreaker, though. Why do I own 3 copies of Nightbreaker? There's 2 reasons. I'm holding up 3 fingers, but there's 2 reasons. First, it's a kick-ass set of recordings, even though the production's a little rough because, again, it wasn't really meant to come out as an album. The second reason is that I'm a sick little fucking monkey.
Yep, your monkey is definitely sick.
DeMeo lasts, for a long span of albums with the band. But, again, eventually after, Mark Reale passed away, the band is carried on with Mark's father's blessing as Riot V or Riot 5. And they have Todd Michael Hall on board. And he's a fantastic vocalist. He's a little bit more, he's kind of in the Tony Moore camp, but not quite as over the top. Todd Michael Hall had cut his teeth working with Jack Starr on some of the other later Burning Star project albums. So, it's a band with like 5 decades of material. They've had 5 vocalists, and every single time they've gotten somebody who was absolutely fantastic. That's amazing. That won't happen again in the history of metal, I don't think. So, yes, for those who've been asking, the Riot catalog, who's my favorite vocalist? Yes. Yep. All right, Marty, who you want to wrap this up with?
Well, I've been holding out on this because I'm surprised either of these 2 guys never showed anything, but I'm going with Hansi Kirsch or Kusch or however you say his name from Blind Guardian.
Great one.
I also picked Demons and Wizards, the side project Hansi did with John Schaefer.
That
I
happened
like his
too.
vocals on here. It happened too.
Oh, his vocals are fine. I always thought that album was overrated besides the title track.
I liked it. I liked it better than
everybody
others.
But me liked it. So you're all wrong is what I'm saying.
But he's got the further he went on, once he dropped playing bass and singing, he could focus on his vocals. I think it was a good choice. I really do. he got a little raspier and really kind of broke into his own voice a lot more. I don't know. I think he's an outstanding singer, even on the new album. My kid bought it, and I've been listening to it a lot. I know Alan's kind of on the fence on that one, but I think it's a great record. It was made for the fans. It was like we're sorry we made a 2 CD opera, symphonic opera mess, and made you buy it, but Hansi's got he's a very a discernible, a unique characteristic. 3 words into what he says, you can understand what you could understand as him. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
High praise for the German master for sure. And that does it. And really, Steve picked a topic that, like I said, I still have shit sitting here. So, and I could have picked a whole bunch more. But it's just one of those. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I named a lot of my favorites, but there's also a lot more that's absolutely great.
Yeah, was a great topic. We've been kind of meaning to do more of a musician themed thing. Most of the time we're talking about, albums or bands, but it's like, at some point we need to do favorite guitarists or favorite vocalists. So yeah, it was a fantastic idea Steve had to go in that direction. It's like, yep, let's do that. Steve, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. We are sorry it took so bloody long to get you on the show. You've been on our list for a long time, and we're super glad it worked out.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you guys.
Oh, anytime.
A little bit nervous because it's live, but that's me. That's how I
am. You've done absolutely fine. You've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, you get over it.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody in the chat. It's been a ton of folks commenting there and throwing out lots of other great choices that we just didn't make our lists tonight. But yeah, maybe there will be a part 2 in the future, and we'll get around to some more of them and try not to overlap with what we did in part 1 too much. So yeah,
absolutely.
Really appreciate it. Hope folks have enjoyed it. And Marty, show notes for things coming up on Heavy Metallurgy. What you got?
Yeah, we've got a Crip sermon review coming up next week, thanks to Alan, and also an Alcest review, thanks to Mike Seatown, who is joining the cast of characters here every once in a while when he feels up to it. And Wednesday night we are doing Envenom by Sabbath from Japan, and Friday we'll be bringing back our friend Darcy from Canada, and we'll be going through talking about and ranking the entire Overkill catalog, the full-length albums.
20 of them.
Yep, 20 of them. So I better get busy.
What'd
you say?
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yeah, Saxon was 25, so I'm pretty sure that I can. Hey, that's not Bobo. It's the old switcheroo.
This is the evil mastermind. If this cat had thumbs, she would rule this planet by now. She is that smart.
Right.
Except she doesn't know the meaning of the word no. She's about to get into the bag of tuna treats.
There you go. She's not even gonna. She's gonna bypass you and go right to the source. Yep.
Oh hell, she could probably figure out how to use my credit card and buy them herself. I mean, this cat's IQ is off the charts.
Right on. But anyway, cheers, everybody. Like I said, a lot of new people in the chat tonight. Awesome to see you folks. Seriously, thanks for joining us and joining the community. You guys all rule. Thank you so much. And Steve, thank you again, brother, for hanging out with us. Everybody go check out S&T Young. The link is in the description. Go give him some subs and some love. He shows a lot of killer music, a lot of cool death and thrash metal.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool stuff. And he's an amazing bass player, too. He does demonstrate that talent on there as well. Great stuff.
Yeah. But one last thing to point that should be said for Steve's channel, too. It's not, he doesn't just show stuff from the 80s. Like, he did a video not that long ago, like on favorite, more recent thrash metal albums. That was really cool to see some of those albums get talked about, that it wasn't just going back to, Rain and Blood and Master of Puppets. So yeah, he's got, a lot of quality content. You should go check it all out. Absolutely.
Yeah, Rain and Blood and Master of Puppets, I try to avoid showing on my channel at all costs.
Yep.
But, I try to show
they're great albums, but everybody knows them. It's really cool to see folks pull out more recent things that people maybe have overlooked or never heard of, for sure.
Yeah, I use a line that Marty Worm said a long time ago in one of his videos. He said, "I don't want to be Colty McCulterson." I can't remember. I think it was his most meaningful albums or something like that.
Yeah.
And whenever I pull out something that's a little bit more obscure, that's why I said I'm Colty McCulterson.
Yep. Yep.
So, Marty.
That's all right. Go ahead, take it and run with it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Y'all have a great weekend. Steve, thank you. Don't hang up. We'll talk for a minute afterwards. And Alan, do you have anything to add? I mean, Let's Talk Metal. If you're not a subscriber to Let's Talk Metal, go over there. Alan's killing it every Tuesday. What's coming up this coming Tuesday?
I just finished it before we started tonight. I'll be talking about the life and times of the new wave of British heavy metal band called Trespass. They had a really good catalog, kind of a small discography, but some good stuff to check out.
Awesome. Okay. Cheers, everyone. We will see you next week. Have a great weekend and hope you are withstanding the heat. Find a cool place and lay down in it.
Yep.
Until then, we'll see you.
Bye. Hey, bag.